Without a doubt, the movie I just watched is the weirdest film of the year in the best possible way. It's called The Substance, and I think it's flown under a lot of people's radar because this hasn't generated nearly as much buzz as it deserves. I only heard about it because during streams, people were telling me I need to go see it. It's an incredible body horror movie. So right away, I went in this with pretty high expectations with all of the glaze it was getting. This shit was getting basted like a Thanksgiving turkey here in compliments. So I had high expectations of this film. I knew nothing about it going in, didn't even know the concept of it. I was blown away. I thought it was extraordinary. It's super self-aware in its campiness. So the concept of the film is a woman who's getting older is really struggling to come to terms with not being like the beauty standard, being the beauty girl, because she was a TV star for the longest time and she was used to everybody just suckling farts out her butt. And as she was getting older, people stopped doing that. Her ratings were starting to drop, and she was really struggling to come to terms with that. So she gets this opportunity to try something called The Substance, which promises to bring a better version of herself forward. Prettier, younger, this and that, the whole kit and caboodle. Now, while this idea has been explored numerous times, the pursuit of perfection, unrealistic beauty standards, and all kinds of things that this movie thematically explores, it has never been tackled in a way that The Substance has done. It is so good. And I really think it's elevated by how self-aware it is. Very clearly, there's a lot of Cronenberg influence on a lot of what you see and a lot of what you experience with this movie, and I love it. It was so refreshing, it was gross, it was yucky, and I'll get into the nitty-gritty of it for sure, but I really do think this was a pretty special film, but not everyone is going to like it. We went with a pretty large group, and I'd say 60% loved it, and the other 40% were repulsed by it. They hated it. Drew was livid. There was steam coming out of his ears. He hated sitting through this movie so much. He wanted to be neuralized by the Men in Black just to get it out of his mind because he thought it was just that trash. And I feel like that's going to be an experience for a lot of people. There are going to be people that can really appreciate it and those that are just going to be super put off by it. I guess another thing worth mentioning that some of the people that hated it pointed out is that probably a good like 20% of this movie is spent naked. So there's a lot of titty and ass and like close up of booby and ass. Like sometimes it came out of nowhere like a jump scare with bang, honkers. And there is a lot of that for sure. I don't think it's like needless nudity or something when it's there. There's a reason for it, but there is a lot of it there that maybe some people might find to be like excessive, because there were moments where it was like actually like softcore porn to a certain extent, especially because one of the big things is, you know, I'm not going to get into that because I think that's probably too big of a spoiler, but the sexuality of things does play a role in the actual plot of it all. But me personally, I was smiling ear to ear from start to finish like there was someone tickling my armpits. It had me in such a good mood. Like it was so fun. It was silly in all of the right ways and at all of the right moments. It was serious at all of the right moments, and the body horror is so good. Typically when something tries to be body horror in 2024, you know, the modern age, they just do the laziest, cheapest shit ever where it's like CGI blood coming out of orifices and maybe like an eye poke or something. This film, it goes hog wild. It was like watching a live action Meat Canyon film. I thought it was so good. And it also does play around with the blood too. There is like eruptions of blood. There's tons of guts and gore and everything. But that's not the bread and butter. This whole film, from the way it's filmed to what it presents you with for like the monster creature design, is stellar. I love how everything in this film feels like it's under a microscope. So even something as simple as, you know, the Hollywood big shot smoking a cigarette, it's super zoomed in on the cigarette and like his pores, and he's like got saliva dripping out of his mouth while he's smoking it. He's eating some prawns and it's like really yucky sounds, like the worst ASMR ever. And you just sit there and witness all the grossness of it. Even when it's not body horror, it's just filmed in a way that just puts you on edge effectively. And I just thought it was great. Now, like I said, a lot of people hype this movie up saying that it's one of the better body horror films and like the best horror movie of the year. And I agree, it is definitely up there. And interestingly enough, there was a sizable chunk of people that thought I'd really appreciate it because it's eerily similar to a concept that I wrote about years ago. I had an idea for a short story that I put a tweet out about like 6 or 7 years ago, and I had even told a piece of that short story on our album, The Evolution of Tears for the Gentle Men, just kind of as like a silly little track. So we put it to music, and it was just like a short summation of the story. And fundamentally what it was just this dumb dog shit idea I had where a woman achieves immortality through birthing a clone of herself. So she gets to her octogenarian era, she's senile, she's about to buy the farm, but before she dies, she spontaneously gets pregnant and births an exact copy of her younger self with all of her current self's memories. And in the substance, it's actually kind of similar. So when she gets the substance, she collapses, her back splits open, and she spawns a young version of herself. So the big thing is, she is the Matrix, and this new person, this new being, is actually her. You are one, but it is two separate people, the old you and the new you. And the thing is, you have to keep switching bodies every 7 days in order to not have any like bad side effects from it. I'm trying not to spoil anything, but all of this I'm pretty sure is going to be in the trailers because it's the entire premise of the film. Now, if you've got your thinking caps on and you're using all the neurons up here, you're going to start to connect dots that my short story and the substance, they share some similarities. Now, I'm not necessarily going to be knocking on their door with a lawyer with some papers drafted or anything, because obviously my short story did not inspire this in any way, shape, or form, and they are drastically different. But I couldn't help but actually laugh once the birthing of the younger version of herself happened, which was a really good scene, by the way. But I couldn't help but laugh because I immediately drew that connection of, oh, this is like actually my short story that I'm watching right here, this one moment. Because that is fundamentally what I was writing about for it, in a much worse, stupider way. It's done significantly better in this film, but I just thought that was so interesting that it was like even remotely similar at any stage. So I just wanted to point that out. I'm not asking for royalties or anything, I just wanted to put that out there. Yeah, I just thought this movie slapped. As I mentioned, I think it is a very self-aware film in a way you don't really see that often. It's campy in the best ways. And let me give you an example. Dennis Quaid. Dennis Quaid plays this Hollywood guy. He has the television station that our main character was once the star of, and now the younger version of herself is now the star. Of course, no one knows these are the same person or anything. Like, to everyone else, they're two separate people. And he's a huge scumbag. He's a pervert. He's a bad weirdo. He's a degenerate. And Dennis Quaid leans into the idea of like Hollywood sleazeball so well. So, for example, when he's like just traversing the world, he's in these like steel-toed boots. When he like if he was walking down the hallway in any scene, it sounded like Sonny from iRobot jogging. Like, it just sounded like metal clanking against metal every time he made a move. And the way he moved is like Vince McMahon. So he's always doing this. So every time he's walking, he's hitting him with some of this right here. And he, like, his mannerisms are so silly. So like towards the end where he's like, pretty girls should always smile. And then he starts walking away doing this. Like, it's so over the top, but not in a way where I was like, damn, that's cringe. Like, he's doing too much. It was like, that's perfect. Like, that's so good. It had me laughing, which I'm pretty sure was the idea with it. And it's not just him, I just think he was the best shining example of it. They'd introduce characters sometimes, like Fred, and it's just so in your face, but not in a way where it feels dumb. Like, it just feels like, oh, they're in on this being a joke, and it's supposed to be campy. But I will say there were moments where I think they expected the audience to be stupider. So, like, a big reveal, they did a subtle moment where it reveals it, and you're like, oh, I'm picking up on that. I see what they're saying with that. That's what that means. And then, once you have that realization, the movie immediately beats you over the fucking head with a hammer with what it is. They take all the subtlety away with, like, a flashback or showing you something, like, you know, behind the curtain with, this is what it is. This is it right here. Showing you, telling you, instead of just having any level of trust in the audience to piece it together themselves with what you've shown them. So that was a little upsetting because that happened a couple of times, and I just thought it was unnecessary in a film like this. Like, you set it up well, and you had a good execution of, like, this subtle reveal. I don't think they needed to take the extra, like, 5 minutes to give you, like, the monologue, and this is what it means, and this is why I did it, and this is who I am. I just thought that was a little much. But I just thought the film was super good. I love the monsters. When the monster stuff starts happening, again, not getting into spoilers, I thought they crushed it with the design. I thought it looked great. It did a good job of being unsettling and gross. People in the theater were audibly like recoiling, going like, oh no, actually emoting during a film, which I have not heard in so long in a movie theater. So I think it accomplished its goal. And it's the perfect amount of weird. Like, one of the monsters pukes out a whole titty. Like, it actually pukes out a breast, a single boobie. It just plops onto the ground, a disembodied tit. It's like, whoa, wow, that was interesting, I just think The Substance is a pretty special film. I thought they crushed it. I really did. But again, I think there's going to be a ton of people who hate it. This is not a film I think that's for everyone. It is a weird movie, and I think you need to go in there ready to accept that it's like cartoonishly over the top. And once you do accept that, I think you're going to have a ton of fun watching it. So yeah, that's really about it. So yeah. I'm sure a lot of you have heard the hype around a new movie that just came out called Sinners. It's the best reviewed film of the year so far, and I think it's one of the best reviewed films of the last handful of years. It's getting more glazed than a Little Debbie's honey bun. People are going ballistic over it, and the question needs to be asked. Does it live up to the hype? Is it as good as people say it is? And can it beat Chicken Jockey? I'm the only one qualified to opine on this, and the answer is a resounding yes. I think it's a really, really good movie. It's a movie that explores a ton of different things, and it does all of it really well. Now let's get into the spaghetti and the meatballs. First and foremost, I think the trailers lead people to believe that it's something that it's not, a horror film. And this isn't a complaint or anything. I just feel like, I've talked about it on stream quite a bit, there's a lot of people under the impression that this is supposed to be a scary movie. I don't think that's the case. And this isn't me just being, grisly tough guy who doesn't get scared of anything. The only thing Charles fears is a day without getting pussy. I just personally don't think it fits into that category, and a lot of people, at least when I've talked about it, have written it off as just like a horror slop film, and that's just so disingenuous. Like, it's not a film that's trying to focus primarily on making the viewer fucking throw popcorn in their face out of fear and panic and wetting their britches. Like, that's not what the movie sets out to do. Like, yes, there's some unnerving scenes. They're there for a purpose other than just being boo to the viewers. There's like 2 or 3 jump scares in the movie, but just because they're jump scares doesn't automatically categorize it as a horror film. I've yapped about this for a minute here, but the whole reason is because I just don't like to see people write something off like this because they dislike horror films. I think this is a movie that a lot of people are really going to enjoy because it offers something very creative and very different. It is a film that, I don't think this is a spoiler because it is literally in the trailer, it builds on vampire lore in a really entertaining way that fits into a really well-written and very, very interesting story and set of characters. Like, the first half of this film is actually pretty slow. It's all about setting up these characters and getting you invested. So Michael B. Jordan stars in it, and he actually plays 2 characters, the Smokestack twins, and then the other main character is Sammy, who is one of their cousins. And they are about to open up a juke joint, and they're going to have a huge, grand opening, so we get to see the twins as well as Sammy getting involved in making this a really special opening, and we get to learn why the Smokestack twins want this to be so successful with everything that they had experienced in Chicago when they had initially left this area. And now they're back, they want to do something big, they want it to be profitable, and, things go tits up pretty quick when, towards the second half of the film, the vampires get introduced. And without getting into spoilers, the way that they use vampires here I think is really smart and different from what I've seen in other vampire movies. It of course uses like classic lore of needing to be invited in, which I always thought was one of the more humorous elements of vampires. But here, it's really tense when they play with that about, needing that invitation inside. Because if you don't invite them in, they're kind of fucking harmless. You can just kind of hunker down until the sun comes up. But it's not so simple. And I think they do a great job. It is amazing at delivering great character pieces and getting you actually to care about the characters that you meet. You get to see the relationship with Smoke and Stack with the various characters that get brought to the juke joint for the big unveiling and like the big, party. And really, everyone in here gave great performances, which obviously helps make you care. So by the time the vampires show up, you really don't want to see anyone get fucking slaughtered by them because you've grown to know quite a bit about these characters. They get pretty fleshed out. Now, one thing this movie puts a huge emphasis on is music. Sammy is an incredible musician. He is unbelievably talented with the blues. And that plays a pivotal role in the narrative and how things happen with... I don't want to get into spoilers. But in order to talk about something that I think wasn't fully explored, I needed to get into spoilers. So here's your spoiler warning. I'm gonna get into spoilers briefly. Sammy's music is what draws that group of vampires to the juke joint in the first place. The main vampire, he wants Sammy because he believes that his music can help connect him to his old friends. And it's established very early on in the movie that sometimes a musician is so talented, it can, call upon the past and even the future. And there's a scene in the middle of the movie where he's delivering an incredible performance at the juke joint. And while delivering that performance, there's like old musicians from many years ago. And then, and it's very cool to see, it's a very cool scene. And then it's modern musicians. So there's a musician playing the electric guitar, and then there's someone with a DJ turntable, and there's someone breakdancing. And it went from like really cool and like, oh, it's nice to see that concept they were talking about, like explored visually here. But then when I'm seeing them like spin the turntable while breakdancing, the scene kind of got like a little silly, and it went on for a long time. Now, narratively, it's a very powerful scene, and I get what it's talking about, and I understand why it's there. It's just, I feel like maybe it went on a little too long when they kept bringing in modern elements from the future there, because this is a movie set in the 1930s. So it just felt weird having like the turntable and the breakdancing, which it's supposed to feel weird, but in a way that I thought kind of got a little comical. Not a big complaint, but something I wanted to mention. What I think wasn't fully explored very well was the concept itself, though, because the movie talks about, like, music and how Sammy, who is the son of a preacher, he doesn't like the music. He thinks it's a bad thing. And it's something that Sammy very much disagrees with, obviously. And they talk about the music like it's supposed to be the ultimate tool for good, really. And ultimately what happens in the second half of the film, the music never really feels like it was used for good. So like he plays that song, the vampires come, and I thought it would end with him delivering another musical performance, because towards the end he is, gripping the guitar and he hits the vampire with it, and I thought it'd be something about music that's able to, save the day. But that's not the case. It wasn't the music that saved everyone, it was guns and wooden stakes. So, which is fine, because the action was really cool. Like, it was a good action sequence at the end. I thought they did a good job with it. It was bloody, over the top, and it was satisfying. But I don't know, I guess I just kind of expected, since it was a big part of the film, the music, about, like, it's evil. No, it's not. Music is great. I thought that was going to be the moment where it triumphs, and it shows the music is so powerful. Not only can it project, the past and the future, but look at how it can, heal and everything. And it helped defeat the vampires, but it doesn't actually help at all in, saving the day at the end. Which isn't the biggest deal in the world. It's not like a huge complaint of mine, but it is just something I wanted to mention. Overall, I think the film is really, really good. I don't have, like, actual big complaints about it. But I have also seen it been said by a lot of people that this is the best vampire movie ever made, or the best vampire movie made in, like, the last 10 years. I don't know about that. It's not really a vampire movie until, like, the end. Like, at the end of the film, the vampires come in, and even during those moments, it's not like it's all about the vampires. It's still mainly about the characters inside of the juke joint. So, like, I wouldn't say it's, like, the best vampire movie ever made. It just uses vampires really, really well. Anyway, though, I really like the movie, obviously. I definitely think it's worth seeing. That's about it. See ya. A couple weeks ago, I made a video gushing about Severance. People have been preaching the gospel. Woo! about how good the show was, and I finally decided to give it a whirl to see if it lives up to the hype or if I would be in there busting that myth. There was no myths busted, only nuts. I fell in love with the show, so I made a whole video just kind of talking about how it exceeded all of my wildest expectations placed upon it and how I was catching up for Season 2. I caught up, and now Season 2 just finished, and what a remarkable ride it's been. If I had to sum it up with one word, it'd be this. Because there is no words to express it, just big smiles. I fucking love Severance. I think it is probably the best written show I've ever watched. And I don't say that lightly. It is a top 10 show for me of all time. I don't know where I put it in the top 10 because it hasn't fully finished yet, but I really think this is something special. I usually don't care if people dislike things that I like. I'll make jokes about it from time to time, but really at the end of the day, you like what you like. However, if there is anyone out there that dislikes Severance, I gotta raise a big eyebrow at it. I don't know how that's possible. I think the show just does everything right. Everything this show has is executed to the highest possible level. I think the characters are among the best cast of any show I've watched, where every character feels interesting, fleshed out. There's no characters that I think are bad or weak or shitty. Everything in this show, I think, works. The only thing I could see people making a complaint about is that it is often slow-moving, and many times you can see that they are setting up for a cliffhanger to keep you hooked. Because this show is like Fint, and this Fint's got me moving like claymation. It has you hooked, and it knows that, so it plays with it by constantly building and then ending on a cliffhanger at the end of each episode. Which is a really smart tactic, it's very effective, but I definitely can recognize that it would grind some people's asshole for sure. So there are two complaints that I think could be reasonable, but at the end of the day, I feel like no matter how you spin it, this is just such a solid show that I really think no matter what your taste is, you will probably like Severance. I'm pretty confident in saying that. Now, I've already said pretty much everything I want to say about Severance as a whole, so I want to talk specifically about Season 2 now, but without getting into any spoilers. Recently I've been doing a big spoiler warning than getting into spoilers. For this, I'm not even going to bother doing that. I might just do a whole stream going over Severance and spoilers. Anyway, let's talk about Season 2. I think it's another slapper. This claps again. But I do think it's actually pretty different from Season 1. Season 1 injected a lot of humor and a lot of comedy throughout the season, despite being obviously very serious. Season 2, there is still comedic moments and there is still comedy, but it's not as prevalent as it was in Season 1, where you'd have some zingers flying here or there, especially with a character like Dylan. Well, Season 2, so much has happened to these characters, so much is going on with the innies, that now it would almost feel out of place if it still maintained that same DNA of them kind of being jovial and joking all the time. Well, not even all the time. It's not like it. The show was never a comedy, but it had really good comedic writing to it. With a character like Rickon. Well, in Season 2, yes, there are still jokes and comedic moments, but it is much more serious because so much has happened to these characters. So a character like Dylan, who was, firing from the hip with jokes here and there, well, he's going through a really very confusing character arc with his innie and the life that he is now privy to with his outie. And he is now really struggling with that, and he is going through so much, so now he is not making a ton of jokes. None of the characters are, because shit is popping off. And I'm not saying this is a complaint or anything that, they didn't Thor Love and Thunder this bitch, where they just go hog wild, all eggs in the basket of comedy because it worked in Season 1, so let's just ride this horse till it croaks, dies, and everyone hates it. I'm happy they didn't overstay their welcome with as many jokes as they are making in Season 1, even though I'm still really confident they could have made it work. It makes sense that this wouldn't be as lighthearted at times, and why the characters are much more serious, because they have all been through so much, and they, and we as viewers, have learned so much too, that it really would feel out of place if they were kind of the exact same as they were in Season 1. So I appreciate that they're developing, they're evolving, and we're seeing that. I think it's a good thing. I don't have any complaints about Season 2 or anything. The only thing I would say is that in season 2, there is one episode that I was kind of on. It had tones of mid, and it was the episode with Cobell. Again, I'm avoiding spoilers, but it's not that I thought the episode was bad or anything. It was fine, but I really felt like it didn't really bring a ton to the table. It felt kind of stagnant. Like, yes, we're learning more about Cobell, but it dragged it out over the course of that whole episode when I felt it was kind of unnecessary. Like, it felt like the things they wanted to get across, they were things that could have been part of another episode here and there. Like, I don't think it needed its own whole episode for it, but it wasn't even like a bad episode per se. But one of the reasons I feel like it was a little underwhelming is because Lumen is set up as this like almost omniscient evil company, and now we're seeing a different piece of Lumen, and it still feels like the whole company is like 6 people. And like that's kind of something that I've felt about Lumen as a whole in general, where you only ever really see like a handful of people. Everything else is like a mystery. But it always has this like looming presence that it's always watching. Lumen, they got eyes on you when they see you when you're sleeping. They know when you're awake. They know if you've been bad or good. Lumen is always there, and they have people everywhere. They can always fuck you up if need be if you fall out of line. But then when I see something like the Cobell episode, I really get the feeling like maybe they don't. Maybe there really is just like 6 people here, and if they need like hired muscle, they go on Fiverr and send like a car. Like, it just didn't give me this sense of, wow, Lumen is fucking, whoa, they're big. It's BlackRock. They got people and things everywhere. Which, again, isn't really like a complaint per se. I just felt like that episode made it feel a little less than. In season 1, I didn't think there was a single episode that was anything below a 9.5 out of 10. Season 2, with that Cobell episode, I'd give it like an 8 out of 10. Still great, like still good, still fine. But I wanted to point that out. I still think season 2 is amazing. I think Severance is an absolute must-watch for literally everybody. Milchick continues to be my favorite character. In season 2, he gets to spread his wings even more. He is an absolute scene stealer when he is on screen. I also love how they bring his use of big words, his vernacular, as a story element to his character here, where now Lumen itself is complaining about Milchick's use of big words, where he'll use needlessly complicated terms to describe simple things. And it's fun watching him try and like dumb it down and not say things like devour feculence, but maybe he will say devour feculence out of spite because it's who he is. That is what Milchick does. And Milchick, he'll bust it out on you sometimes too. I just love that character. I think he is extraordinary. Severance just continues to be the only show that actually has me lock in while watching it on the edge of my seat, literally talking out loud and like emoting for some of the twists and build-up climactic moments. I am just so invested in this world. It is masterfully crafted. Again, season 2 I think is shot beautifully. It's an amazing, amazing season. Great writing. I love the direction that it's going. I can't wait for season 3. I can't reiterate this enough. I do think this show is a must-watch. So yeah, I liked Severance season 2. Severance as a whole, one of my favorite shows ever. So good. That's about it. So yeah. I just saw Megalopolis. Wow. It was like embarrassing sitting there watching that. I actually felt shame just being there witnessing that disaster of a movie. And to make it worse, insult to injury, I watched it right after Joker 2. So I just made the review for Joker 2. Spoiler, that movie was also bad. This movie was worse for sure, but man, what an unholy 1-2 combo that was. This was like a punch flurry that not even Mike Tyson could deliver, going back to back with Joker and then Megalopolis. So I took a shower before talking about Megalopolis because I know I'm going to get heated on this because it's just so weird. This movie had over $100 million budget. And I don't get why. I don't get it. I already made like a whole rant about that with like these inflated budgets, but this film in particular it's so stupid to have a budget that big because it's a movie devoid of a single element of a story. It has things that happen, sure, but it is such a fucking mess. This is a movie that smells of pretentiousness. It's very clear this wanted to be deeper than it is. This is a movie that wasn't made for any audience in particular. It was made for critics. It was made for people that love the smell of their own farts to pretend like they understand the subtle vicissitudes that the director was trying to convey. But in this film, it doesn't even work with that niche, because even critics don't like it. It's just not very good, like at all. It is a disjointed, like actual fever dream experience. So let's just dive into it. There's going to be spoilers, fair warning. This is a movie that I feel like it's almost impossible to spoil because there isn't really a movie here. It's a collection of random shit that happens. It's like a collection of Francis Ford Coppola's memories from dreams that he had that he tries to piece together loosely here. Very similar to like how the Rick and Morty anime does it. Like this is the Rick and Morty anime with $100 million budget. I'm also pretty sure every actor in here was just directed to be as weird as they possibly can. So Shia LaBeouf, for example, he's in this movie and he dials his like wackiness up to 11. So like in the very beginning of the movie, they're like going to this big press thing about something that they're opening, and Shia LaBeouf's there, and his uncle is also Caesar's uncle, and he's like, I heard you're doing the hanky pank with your sisters. Can you stop that? And Shia LaBeouf's like, no, I won't stop that. So he's like doing this, and then he like grabs the railing and he like kicks his feet up. He goes, and then he like puts himself in a dress in the next scene, like also still doing those mannerisms and stuff. And also Adam Driver as Caesar, someone I thought was supposed to be like this cavalier, like genius guy. He's kind of the same way. So at that same press event, he's there and he's giving a monologue, and he is actually a Reddit mod. So Caesar's character, I am 100% sure, is inspired by like the quintessential Reddit mod that everybody pictures in their head. The way he carries himself, the way he talks, he's always some of this. And like the way he speaks to people is so fucking cringe. Like actual Discord admin level shit. So like there's a scene where the mayor's daughter shows up and he talks to her. He's like, ugh, Jiminy Christmas. But he doesn't say Jiminy Christmas. But he scoffs. He's like, ugh, you, of course, you've wandered into my quarters. I'd prefer if you weren't here. I don't like to dawdle with the riffraff. I prefer to carry myself in conversations with those that like to think, so we can have intellectual discussions on important subjects. So if you wouldn't mind excusing yourself from my abode, I would be much appreciative of that. Why don't you go see yourself back to the club and get out? And he says that, by the way. Now, that wasn't verbatim, but he literally says club like that. It's awful. It's terrible to listen to. But I will say, it is fun bad. Pretty often, actually. I did find myself audibly saying, what the fuck, with a smile on my face and giggling occasionally at how horrible what I was watching is. Because it's really shitty, but sometimes in an unintentionally entertaining way. It tries to be so profound and falls flat on its fucking face. So, let's begin. I don't think the movie is dog shit out of the gate. In fact, I actually quite like the visuals in this film, like the style of it I think is interesting. But by the time it gets to the halfway point, you're already so lost in the sauce here that you have no clue what's happening. So it all just becomes kind of worthless anyway. But I do think there is a style here that is unique. However, the visuals really are hit or miss. There are times where it looks really good. Like it seems like, hey, this is a big budget production. And then there's times where it actually looks like they filmed it at our warehouse in front of our green screen. Like there are some of the worst green screen moments in here that I've seen in a modern film. Like it makes some of DC's biggest stinkers for CGI look like award winners. I don't know what happened and why there's some incredible visuals here and then some absolute like Adobe After Effects first year attempt like visuals. I don't get it. So something definitely went awry in the pipeline here for the production, but overall I do think the style is eye-catching. Now, the beginning of the film isn't super dog shit. It's not like Turbo Cheeks or anything. It actually is almost cohesive. They introduce our two main characters that we're going to be seeing a lot of. It's Adam Driver playing Caesar, who is like this genius architect who's found like the god particle basically called Megalon. And it's Giancarlo Esposito playing Cicero, who is the mayor who does not like Caesar. They butt heads constantly. And the film, like, it's not like it's a mess because I'm too stupid to understand it. I know that's a lot of cope people like to try in a film like this, where they like stick their pinky out. The plebeians just simply couldn't understand this high art. What a shame. I understand it because I'm enlightened. That's not the case here. I actually think this movie is very easy to understand on the themes it's trying to get across in the beginning, where it actually had a semblance of a narrative. In the second half of the film, there's nothing. There's actually nothing. We'll get to that in a minute. It is a fucking battlefield of nonsense. But in the beginning, I think it's pretty clear. It's introducing characters that have different ideologies. So, like, there's a reporter who keeps fucking her way up the ladder, trying to get more and more power, more and more wealth. She has, like, a fling with Caesar. Caesar's somewhat of, like a playboy to a certain extent. He's, like, this genius, cavalier kind of guy. Cicero is really against what Caesar represents, which is change. He is trying to think about the future, whereas Cicero's focused on the present. And that's the big clash of ideals. So this is very clearly inspired by, like, the fall of Rome. They drill that home. They shove that down your fucking throat. Like, the location here is called New Rome. It's basically just New York, though. So the whole idea is the dreamer, the architect here, Caesar, wants to bring change. But the rich and powerful around him, they're pretty okay being stagnant and focusing more on, like, the present and just keeping people, like, occupied as opposed to getting ready for what comes next. Caesar has an uncle who's, like, the richest person in the fucking universe. His name's Hamilton, and he's beyond absurdly wealthy. So Caesar also has a lot of power, a lot of money, a lot of influence. And the whole idea is he wants to use the Megalon particle to make Megalopolis, which will be a utopia, which is all about the future and getting the next generation ready for what comes. And also, Caesar has a superpower. He can stop time. Not only can he stop time, he can fully manipulate it. He controls time. And you'd think that'd be like an important component of this story. It's not. He does it maybe 3 times. And he really only does it when he wants to watch a building fall once. And then the other 2 times he does it is to kiss a girl. Oh, and then he does it one more time where he just shows that he can do it. He never actually uses it for anything. It is completely worthless, meaningless. I don't even know why they bothered giving him a superpower, other than what it represents. So here's where we get to, again, the double meanings and shit that like to try and get woven in here unsuccessfully because the film's just very underwhelming. The idea, I believe, that they're trying to convey with Caesar stopping time is one that they do kind of like hammer into you at one point because his love interest comes in after he's lost this power due to self-doubt. She kind of explains that art, every piece of art, uses time, manipulates time, controls time. Music turns time into rhythm. Architecture freezes time in these buildings, this and that. So the idea here with his superpower isn't necessarily that has the ability to control time, even though he literally does. It's more about the representation that his vision, his art, is the architecture and the ability to stop time with his creation. Now, his love interest, the reason she even gets interested in him in the first place is she happens to see him stop time. She doesn't get stopped. Everyone else around him gets frozen in time. She doesn't. She's able to, like, process it and, like, wow, he can control time. Most people will be really impressed by that. And the idea here that they're trying to get across, I believe, is that she can see his artistic vision, and he is able to understand that she gets the vision, which is why he falls in love with her and her him. And this all would be fine and dandy if there was anything that comes from it. Like, they set up this shit, it's not that subtle, it's not very deep, it's all kind of like obvious, I think, for the most part, and they don't even do anything with it. It's just like a bunch of different fucking ideas that don't work together that get thrown in here. It's a waste of time. And it introduces so many plot elements that never play a role in this. So like the superpower, for example, it doesn't actually play a role in this at all. There's also a satellite that they introduce in the beginning that's about to, like, fall into the earth and maybe be a problem, but then they deem it's not that big of a deal because it's hitting somewhere kind of remote. And then eventually towards the end of the movie, here comes the satellite. It's changed course. It's going to hit New Rome directly. No! And then it hits New Rome, blows up like 3 buildings, and then it's never addressed again. Like, and then also there's a plot line where Caesar's wife died, and for some reason he was accused of murdering her. And Cicero, the mayor, was actually the DA at the time trying to pin murder on him. He was eventually acquitted of that. And then there's like this scene where he's buying flowers for his wife, except his wife's dead, so it's like kind of all in his head. But it shows like he still loved his wife. And I thought that was going to be a big component of this, but it's not. Turns out like he wasn't the best husband really, and his wife ended up like driving off a bridge and dying, and then something mysteriously happened to the body, and they accuse Caesar of like taking the body, except he didn't take the body. It was actually some kind of big cover up. And then Cicero, when he finds out that Caesar's like, impregnated his daughter, he's like, listen, Caesar, I love my daughter, and here's a red envelope that has my confession about your wife's body, which is never addressed again. Also, his wife's body never mattered in the plot. Also, his wife never mattered in the plot. The biggest thing that happened with his wife is where he like really offhandedly mentions that he found Megalon by trying to bring his wife back to life, and then that's it. Then he goes right back to making out and impregnating the mayor's daughter. All of these things get introduced, but don't actually mean anything or do anything. Like, there's a whole scene where the reporter that was fucking Caesar ends up marrying his uncle for his money, and they throw this big wedding at a coliseum where they have like wrestlers wrestling, and then they have this girl do a musical number, and she's like the virgin that New Rome sponsors. Like, she's a New Rome enforced virgin. So during this wedding celebration, there's a moment where she has a musical number, and then it leads to people like donating money for her virginity fund or something. Like, I don't even know what they're bidding on. Like, they start bidding. It gets up to like $100 million just to give her money for being a virgin. Like, it makes no sense. And then all of a sudden, Shia LaBeouf's in this movie, acting like an absolute crazy person, which is fine, I guess, but it doesn't do anything. He's just like weird for the sake of being weird. It doesn't actually do anything for the plot. But anyway, Shia LaBeouf comes up with this nefarious plot to try and like hurt Caesar, so he deepfakes a video of him taking that girl's virginity, except she was underage. So then he starts to like get tried for like statutory rape, except then it turns out that the girl's 23, and then like the charges immediately get dropped. And then the whole thing with that girl, Caesar, the virgin, whatever, none of that ever gets addressed outside of the 10 minutes that became a plot point. It's like Francis Ford Coppola completely forgot it was even written in here. Like, it's just this complete nonsensical fucking dumpster fire of things that happen. And I can't even say happen, because a lot of things don't even really happen. Like, almost nothing happens. It is impossible to piece together what the actual plot is past the halfway point. And I'd say a little before the halfway point, it goes completely unhinged and off the rails. It falls apart, and it was barely even held together in the first place. But at least there was a semblance of where things were going. But then it just becomes indecipherable. It's like Finnegan's Wake visually. Like, just complete gibberish. So, like, the plot's moving forward. Eventually, like, Shia LaBeouf's character, Claudio, he starts leading a movement that's, trying to push Caesar out, push the mayor out. He's leading the charge and like, getting into politics. Things aren't going super well for Caesar, who gets shot by a child as like an assassination attempt that Claudio was behind, but he survives because Megalon got fused with his skull, which regrew his whole brain and his whole face. So like, it's literally a god particle. It's like a magic particle that can just do anything, including building utopia. The girl who married the uncle then starts having sex with Claudio. So like, there's this whole uncomfortable scene. The girl is played by Aubrey Plaza, by the way. And so Aubrey Plaza goes up to Shia LaBeouf, and she's like, your grandfather, we need to steal his money. You're a naughty boy, aren't you? And he's like, yes, Auntie Wow. Her name is Wow Platinum. That's the character's name, Wow Platinum. And this scene goes on for way too long, an uncomfortably long period of time, where she's like, does my ass look good in this? And he's like, yeah. And she said, no, yes, Auntie Wow. Say that. And he's like, yes, Auntie Wow. And then she like shoves her whole pussy in his face, and he starts eating her out, saying, thanks, Auntie Wow. And then she's like, do you want to fuck me? And he's like, yes, Auntie Wow. And then she goes over her plan to get Claudio to become the interim CEO to force out Hamilton so they can have all of his infinite wealth. So then they're together, and then they do execute that plan, and it kicks Hamilton out somehow. And then Hamilton has a heart attack, except he's faking it, so he's like in bed, and Claudio and Wow Platinum pay him a visit. And a lot of people, I think, talked about this scene because someone mentioned it on stream like 2 days ago. So this is the scene where Hamilton's in bed and they're around him, and he's still pretending to be like injured to a certain extent from the heart attack. So he says, "One more thing. Do you like my boner?" Because there's like something sticking up in the sheets. And like, "Do you like my boner?" And then he takes the sheet off, and it's a little bow and arrow, like Cupid's bow and arrow. So he shoots a little arrow, which hits Aubrey Plaza in the heart, instantly killing Wow Platinum. And then he shoots 2 more arrows into the ass of Shia LaBeouf as he runs away. And he says, "It's the closing bell, you Wall Street slut." Something like that before firing the arrow, killing Aubrey Plaza. It's bad. Like, it's bad, but like I said, it's kind of like fun shitty. Do you like my boner? Like, I mean, it got a little laugh out of me, the absurdity of it. Maybe that's the whole point of the movie, is just to be so incomprehensibly absurd that you're supposed to find enjoyment of it. But you're not really laughing with the movie, you're kind of laughing at it. Because it's a disaster. This movie is a disaster. So, like, even Megalopolis itself, what it is, like the utopia that Caesar is building, it's a fucking amusement park. He is literally making an amusement park. So you see Megalopolis at the end, like, he gets it made and everyone moves to Megalopolis, and somehow it's supposed to save the world, and somehow the mayor, who's been really adamant against it, thinking that Caesar's like this evil bad guy, this can never work, whatever, he ends up going there and he's like, "Wow, this place is fucking incredible. Wow, look at that. Yeah, this is going to save the world. But shake my hand and tell me that you're going to build diligently," or something. He's like, "Yeah, of course." And the place is actually like little roller coasters. So you ride around on Pokeballs on these golden highways. Oh, actually, they're kind of like the little pods out of Jurassic World. You ride around on those in little golden highways, like tiny little highways, and all of the buildings are like seashells. It actually kind of reminds me of the concept art for Akon City. You remember that like scam Akon tried to run? It actually kind of looks like that. I think they took design elements from Akon City for Megalopolis. It's so silly. Like, somehow this is the utopia? This is what saves the world? Like, what? It was so dumb. Man, I could go on and on about, like, the insanity of this film. I just can't believe this got made, and I am even more stunned that this had over $100 million budget. What a waste of money. So, I know it's not doing well financially, so everyone's already made the joke calling it Megaflopolis, but man, it really is. This shit sucks. Like, I don't get it, what they were going for. Like, I get in the beginning what they tried to set up with, like, the pretty obvious imagery and, like, the ideologies that they introduced. Like, I get that, but then it just doesn't even follow any of that. Like, it doesn't even go down that path. It's just a complete mess. So, is Megalopolis worth watching? No. But if you like fun bad movies, this might be one to stream when it comes out. I think it is fun bad. I think it's more oftentimes enjoyably shitty than it is boringly shitty. Like, there was never a moment in the film where I was like, man, this is like unbearable to sit through. I was always like, okay, this is kind of dragging, but I know there's going to be something so stupid that it'll probably like breathe life back into this. And I was usually right. It is fun bad pretty often. So if you like shittily entertaining films, this one might be for you. But I would not recommend paying money to go see it under any circumstance. That's about it. See ya. I just saw The Crow remake, and I am happy to report it's a fun bad movie. Makes you want to wiggle your finger. Because most super stinkers we've been getting in recent memory have been boringly trash or unwatchably abominable. It's so refreshing to be able to stew in my swamp ass in a nice cinema and experience a film that knows how to finally tap dance on the line between dog shit and holy shit, I'm actually having fun. Now, it's not a great movie by any means, so if you're going into that expecting it to be, you're going to be disappointed. But it's also not a good movie, so if you're going in there expecting a good movie, you're also going to be disappointed. It's so bad it's good, baby. and those are some of my favorites. Now, I want to be clear, I don't think the movie's awful or anything either. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of people saying it's, one of the worst movies of the year or something like that. It's not. It's really not. There are things to like about this film. I was pleasantly surprised at how not unwatchably horrible it was. I went into this with the lowest possible expectations, and I was pleasantly surprised that I was having a good time with it. Even though it's probably not the great time it wanted me to have, because again, I'm someone who likes fun bad films, and I would definitely classify this as fun bad. But even aside from that, I do think there are a lot of things in this movie that people will just straight up enjoy, not even like ironically or as a so bad it's good thing. And I'll go ahead and get those compliments out of the way before diving into what makes it not a great film, and then getting into why I had actually a good time seeing it. So what I think this movie does really well is its action. Now, there is some CGI blood here and there, which you've just come to expect from most movies these days, so I wasn't like terribly let down with that. I was caught off guard by how competent the action was, especially its final fight sequence. It's set to like a full opera performance where the Crow is going around murdering tons of dudes in over-the-top fashion while getting peppered with bullets, blood and guts flying all over the place. He even has a sword with him the whole time, so he's just like stabbing people with a sword, and he's getting really creative with it. So he has godly powers, so he's not dying, and someone stabs him with the sword, leaves it there, and he feels all the pain, so he's like, ooh, ouch, ew, big boo-boo here. And he was punching a guy who's on the ground, so now he has the sword in his stomach, and what he decides to do is just slowly lower himself down onto the dude's head. So he's taking the sword that's in his chest, and he's just bringing the dude's head closer to it as he gets lower, and it just stabs him straight through the eye. And then another cool one he does is he puts the sword in someone's mouth and shoves it back, so just splitting their mouth, or splitting their head from the mouth down, and then like the jaw and everything just hangs. It's so silly in the best way. And it's all set and sometimes even synced to the opera music. I thought it was great, like actually great. Nothing bad about that except for like some CGI blood, which again, I've come to expect it from blockbusters, so I wasn't, taken out of the experience by it or anything. I really enjoyed that. And I also enjoyed the couple of other action sequences they sprinkled throughout the movie. Really, anytime there was action, it was good. Big problem, there's not a lot of it. The times where they do have action isn't until like over an hour into the movie, really. You go through an hour having to eat your vegetables with a terribly written drama that sounds like it's something straight out of CW, and then you finally get your dessert with the great action sequences when he becomes the Crow. Now, there is a little bit more I want to talk about there. I'm going to get into spoilers here. I have to get into spoilers here talking about this movie, because as you can tell, I enjoyed it. I understand it's not a good movie by any means, but it's a movie where I was very pleasantly surprised that it wasn't unwatchable, because the trailers and everything made it look truly atrocious. Like, everyone was talking about how the new Crow looks like Jared Leto's the Joker. And they're right. He does. But the way they lean into that in the second half of the movie, I was just sold. I was like, you know what? That's great. They're just unironically committing to this super stupid, like basically graffiti on a public restroom door level of tattoos for the Crow here, and just running with it. So then he puts on tattoo ink on his eyeballs and connects it to his lips, and just they whole hog sin that. And it's hard to even find it cringe at that point. They wore that on their sleeve. And I actually like the style. The style I kind of came to appreciate. At first I was like, ooh, this is kind of lame and dorky. But by the end, when he's over there just murdering people while looking like he was in My Chemical Romance 15 years ago, I was like, you know what? I'm in. But that's really all of the good things I can say about the movie. There are also little bits and pieces of a good performance from Bill Skarsgård here as Eric. Now, I'm going to do my best not to compare this to the original, because it was never going to stand up to the original. It never even stood a fucking chance. I'm just going to be talking about it on its own two legs here with its own merit. But Bill Skarsgård performance, like, there are times where he did a great job, but some of the material he had to work with was just pretty weak. I think he was great in all of the action moments, though. I really liked his portrayal of the Crow fucking obliterating dudes. It was wonderful. But now let's talk about everything wrong with the film, and hooey, I hope you're ready for a doozy. I wrote a couple notes. So first off, the pacing in this film is awful, and it really feels like a lot of this movie was cut, because there's like some characters that are like propped up to be somewhat important, forgotten about, and then brought back like we're supposed to care or even know who they are. So it feels like there's a lot of things in this film that just didn't connect, and whatever they filmed to connect it was just taken out during editing for some reason, or they lost the footage. Maybe the file got corrupted. I have no fucking clue. But the pacing is terrible, and their attempt to make you care about the characters and their relationship just really falls flat. Even though I do think there was like some good chemistry between Eric and Shelley, the writing, like the dialogue between them, is just not very good. I wrote down a couple of their lines. So, first off, the narrative, I'm sure you all know what The Crow is about. Eric falls in love with a girl. They're madly in love. They then get killed in a terrible way. Eric is then given the opportunity to come back with some godly power to right the wrongs. That's the speed run of the narrative there. The main bad guy is a music buff who loves the piano, and he made a deal with the devil a long time ago, and the contract stipulates that he has to sacrifice innocent lives to send them to hell, and he gets to be immortal, basically. And the way that he kills people is by whispering in their ear, and then they kill themselves. So he basically just talks some shit. He gets into their ear and starts, you know, like the way they portray it is like the very cliche, like devil speak. But honestly, like when he just leans in and whispers and it's just a bunch of mumbo jumbo, I kept picturing Courage from Courage the Cowardly Dog going, and then like immediately they kill themselves or something. So like his power is stupid. But I don't mind the supernatural element of giving the main bad guy some power too, because the Crow has power, so it could be like a fun clash. Spoiler alert, it wasn't when they actually fought. We'll get to that later. But anyway, the beginning of the movie is spent fleshing out Shelley. She's on the run from that evil bad guy. Turns out her mom sold her to him for fame, fundamentally, and he was doing terrible shit. She eventually managed to escape, but now some things have changed, and the bad guy's trying to catch her and her friends, and he's already killed one of her friends. It eventually leads to her landing at rehab, where she locks eyes with Eric. And immediately after just like a quick glance, they fall in love. Because the next scene, Eric, who they've already established is like this outcast loner, like he doesn't really speak, he's super reserved, he's not all there, he's kind of fucked up. And the next scene, after they lock eyes there, he's eating at a table. She walks over, says hi. He says nothing. He just completely just fucking like a statue of stone. Doesn't respond. She eventually cracks through that hard exterior, gets through that shell. And one of the first things he says to her is that he likes her tattoo. And the tattoo said, "Laugh now, cry later." And she made a remark about how that's kind of how her life is played out. And he says in response, verbatim, I wrote it down because I didn't want to miss this one, because you might want to use this on Tinder or something. It's a great line. He said, "My life is more like cry now, cry later." And then he like walks away shortly after. Just drops like some pure emo shit. He's like, "Yeah, I can't stop crying. Yeah, I cry all the time." And then he leaves. She then goes to his cell, and he's got a lot of art on the walls, and she was like picking up some of the art that was on the floor and noticed that there was a drawing of her naked. Keep in mind, all we've seen from this point is they shared a quick meal together, and he just says that he cries a lot. He fucking sobs all the time. And then she passes by his cell and sees that he has drawn a picture of her naked with her honkers out. And there is like a focus on the titties, it seems, in the art. And she takes it as a good thing. Like, she's super thrilled about that, whereas I think any sane person would be like, "That's creepy. That's super weird. That's very odd that you've done that. I'm gonna leave now." But instead, she then goes inside, and they fall in love. Immediately. Actually fall in love. Right then and there. And then right after that, they escape together from the rehab facility. Because some of the bad guys had found out she was there, tried to catch her, and then they both skedaddle. So yeah, that's the level of writing that they set up for the characters here. So it's hard to take that seriously. It's bad, but I found it to be fun bad, because the writing is so silly. Now, after they escape, they just start having sex all the time. They just keep steaming ham, and that's supposed to showcase that they're really madly in love. Like, right after they escape, they go to a place that she knows, and then she immediately asks him, like, hey, so, like, you ever been seriously in love? Okay, neither have I, but I'm seriously in love right now. And one of the things she says, which becomes like a profound statement later, is, if you ever find it difficult to love me, just love me harder, or something to that effect. It was almost verbatim that. It's just so stupid. It's so dumb. They spend an agonizingly long time with this relationship that I don't think anyone's going to care about because it's just not done very well. The only way they even show that they love each other is by showing them fucking. Like, that's about it. That's the level of depth. Oh, and they go out all the time together, which is really stupid when it comes to the story in the movie, because she is on the run from the devil. She is on the run from the devil man and all of his associates that are hot on her tail. And they go out all the time. They go to clubs, they go out drinking, they have a ton of friends that go on vacations. I don't know how much time passes from the rehabilitation center to the time where they do actually catch her, but it doesn't seem like that long of a time period. It feels like it's only a couple months at most, and they're already like soulmates bonded together. But it's really stupid that the main thing they do is go out together, like clubbing and drinking, and that's eventually what gets her caught by the bad guys, because fucking obviously it would. They're basically like in witness protection here, trying to stay as under the radar as possible, and their number one hobby is going out in public as much as possible. Like, it wouldn't even be hard to find them. You just need to ask any bar in town, hey, have you seen Eric or Shelley? And they'd be like, oh yeah, they're regulars here. In fact, they're probably in the back right now. Like, I don't know why that would be the number one choice for people that are on the run from the devil, trying to hide from them. So the bad guys show up, and they kill both of them. And then that's when Eric becomes the crow. And that's when the movie finally gets somewhat interesting. But I actually liked how stupid all of that drama was, because I have an appreciation for So Bad It's Good, and it wasn't boring. And I love goth. Like, I'm a huge fan. I'm really upset that they didn't do as much with the goth atmosphere as I would have liked. I think there was a lot more potential to go even harder, even more unapologetically goth with a lot of what they were doing. But they pulled some of the punches in that regard. But they didn't pull any punches when it came to laughably bad writing. It was so fun watching these characters talk to each other and do the stupidest activities together. But even though I know it's turbo ass when it comes to like the first hour of this movie, I was just having a good time with it. Like, fucking Eric is dressing like Doflamingo. It's just so silly. But when he becomes the crow, things do improve a little bit. The action, I think, is great, but the problem is the bad writing persists, and then it stops being fun, shitty writing. So, let me explain what I mean by that. There's a couple decisions with the narrative that I think just really are nonsensically stupid. So, one of the stipulations of Eric having his power is that his love needs to be pure, and he'll be able to right the wrongs and bring her back and whatever. But the second his love even starts to waver a little bit, he loses his power. So he basically has to become the crow twice. Because he starts to doubt her after seeing that the devil man made her do something bad, which is really weird and out of character for Eric here, who's infatuated with her, so much so that he is going to fucking start murdering people to bring her back from hell. And he sees that she did something while being forced to by the devil, and he's like, oh, I can't even look at her the same anymore. Actually, I kind of hate that bitch. Can't get it out of my head. I think I'm going to quit. So then his love starts to waver, and he loses the ability to heal, so he gets shot with a shotgun, and he can't heal it anymore. So then he, like, goes back, and the guy's like, your love stopped being pure. You know, the enemy of love is doubt. Have fun in heaven now. Your girl's in hell. Your fault. And he's like, wait. Another chance. And he's like, okay. So he becomes the crow twice, which I think is highly unnecessary, and it brings everything to a screeching halt. It didn't need to happen like that. That just was a totally useless thing, really. And there's a couple other instances where it just takes away its own momentum. Like, it takes the wind out of its own sails multiple times. Like, when he becomes the crow, they're setting up great moments, some great set pieces, and then they'll do shit that nobody gives a fuck about. It makes no sense. Like, they already spent an hour building a relationship poorly. They failed to do that. But now, can you at least give us just like a good 30, 40 minutes of the Crow just going on revenge killings here? Like, that's satisfying. It's the simplest formula ever. But even when they're stumbling, I'm having a good time with it. Like I said, it is a fun, bad movie. Like, by no means is it a great film, and also by no means is it some, like, unwatchably horrible film either. I'm sure there's gonna be a lot of people saying, like, this is just as bad as Borderlands or something like that. It's just not. It's not even close. Even if you're not a fan of fun, bad movies, there are things to like about this one. The action is good. And there are a couple other moments in the film that are good. It's just the overall package of the movie isn't that good. But man, again, I enjoyed it. I had fun with it. I really did. It's like all of 2024 has so many bad films and almost none of them are enjoyably shitty. This one is. So that's always special. And I wanted to talk about it a little bit. That's really about it. See ya. Once again, we have a film debuting with more glaze than a donut, with a Rotten Tomatoes score that breaks the charts and sets the new franchise all-time high, with 28 years later coming in at like a 95 or 96%, something like that. And I'm just going to tell you right now, sports fans, I don't think that score makes a whole lot of sense for this film. I don't think it lives up to that level of hype. But we're in this era now where anytime something good comes out, it seems like everyone has to push it to be like the highest rated thing. I just yapped about this with Predator Killer of Killers, which also had the all-time high for its franchise, even though I think it is not the best in the franchise, certainly not in like the deep 90s, almost perfect film. It was a good movie. I liked it. Had plenty of flaws. And I feel the same way about 28 years later. Good movie. I liked it. Plenty of flaws. Let's just dive right in here. Time to get into the fucking spaghetti and the meatballs. I don't know if it's a hot take because I don't really know how people are going to respond to this film, because it does seem like there is a lot in here that is meant for critics to enjoy and like kind of pick apart in terms of like its editing. It has like really fast-paced, very abstract editing and like symbolism, obviously very deeply weaved into a lot of its shots. And I don't know how that's going to land with a lot of audiences, because a lot of times the things that they set up there, like those little building blocks, they never actually finish constructing anything out of it. So they'll just show you like an abstract scene and then really not have that build to anything or actually have any like emotional tie-in to anything. It was just kind of like a odd, peculiar moment for the sake of it, it feels like. Best example, without getting into spoilers, I'm going to get into spoilers in a little bit. Without getting into spoilers, there's like this thing the film does quite a bit in the beginning where it's like splicing old 80s and 70s footage in, like, or like medieval footage where they're like shooting arrows, and it's meant to parallel the society that we follow in 28 years later where they're also shooting arrows. And it's like, okay, I get it, but what the fuck did that add? Like, I guess it's creative to have it go like side by side and fade into each other, but it's kind of just goofy. You just have like this old footage of like people in Party City costumes shooting bows and arrows for this old footage that we're splicing into this movie for the scenes they're shooting arrows. Like, I get it. Just kind of lame though. The weirdest editing sin this movie commits that I really can't understand the thought process behind was it'll do these, not bullet time, because it's not bullet time, they don't like slow-mo the arrows being shot, but there'll be numerous times in the middle of a fight, they're fighting off infected, shooting arrows at it, and they'll get like a headshot. So like Jamie headshots an infected. It'll zoom in and freeze. So the headshot hits and then freeze, and then it'll change camera while it's still frozen, and then the body will hit the ground. Like, why? Why would you do that? Like, I felt like I was about to see like a fucking Scott Pilgrim comic book effects pop up on screen going, blam, boom, kablookie, kersh, that kind of stuff. Like, it was really weird and just felt out of place. It felt like he wanted to have some quirky editing in this film for the sake of being zany. That's not to say that all of those editing decisions are bad. There's some really cool shots in here and some very creative editing. But I do think there was this, like, fixation on trying to make everything kind of abstract and a bit odd. And I feel like that's there for critic bait, more so than it is for a normal audience enjoyment. And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe a lot of people are going to really like the bow and arrow bullet time moments. Like, maybe they want to see, like, that Call of Duty final kill cam. Just wasn't for me. I just thought it was kind of silly. But anyway, like I said, I do like the movie. I think it is a good movie. Great performances across the board. Spike is the main character here. He's the son of Jamie, and Spike is going on a big quest to try and get his mother some help because she is sick, and he wants to save her. And we follow his journey from getting his first kills in the mainland to then braving it all himself to save his mother. And I really think that it is a very compelling, very emotionally charged journey that they nail. Now, when it comes to its story, I will mention it seems like they have completely wiped their ass with 28 weeks later. I don't know if it's been fully retconned or what. I don't understand how 28 weeks later fits into what we see in 28 years later. But maybe they'll explore it more in the sequel to try and make the puzzle pieces fit a little better, but feels like that's been abandoned and it's following something pretty different here in terms of the lore of the 28 Days universe. Which is fine, because in the context of this film, it works. I think it works really well. We get to see some very new things to the franchise that I think hit. I think the action was good, even with the bullet time silliness. I think they did a really great job at making every scene with the infected intense. We see a bunch of different infected, some fat ones, some fast ones, and even the alpha. Alpha was very cool. I thought the alpha infected that they showed off a couple times was an absolute banger. He even had a signature move. For some reason, the alpha infected love ripping people's heads off and like keeping their vertebrae and everything intact to use it as a weapon. Actually shit you see out of Mortal Kombat. That is literally a fatality in Mortal Kombat, and that was his anime finishing move that he loved to utilize. It was cool. Every time that they had to fight off the infected, they did a great job at making it very, very intense. Like, times where you think they're getting away, maybe not. Times where you think there's no way out of it, there probably isn't. Like, they do a really fantastic job at getting you, like, on the edge of your seat when the infected are on screen. And they're on screen a lot. It's not like they take a back seat to everything else. They are front and center, for the most part. So, I was happy with the film. I did like it. But I do want to get into my big-time complaints here, and to do that, I'm going to have to get into spoilers. This is your big spoiler warning. Huge spoiler warning. Here it is. And now it's over. This movie's tone shifts drastically numerous times. It feels like there were conflicting ideas for what this film should be, and instead of trying to meet somewhere in the middle to try and, like, work them together, they just fucking shoved them together and said, fuck it, we'll do it live. It doesn't matter if it, like, works super well. Like, it's not cohesive, is what I'm trying to say. What I mean by this, you have the first half, which is very intense, and it's a little on the slower side, of course, outside of, like, the big intro where you have a lot that happens, but then it gets a little slower as you get more of the pieces set up, and then you'll have this really great journey, and then when you have the infected come in, it's very intense. You're seeing him, Spike, get his first kills. The sound design is really good, like all the weird sloshing and gurgling noises from the infected is unnerving. Everything is great there. And then you get to like the second half of the film where they try and do something a little different, where they have this side plot with a pregnant infected, and then they meet this doctor. And the doctor, I think, is a good character, but it does kind of come out of nowhere here, and it is a bit of a weird thing to throw in, but he has some very moving moments in this movie, some very moving moments, and this doctor's talking about the magic of the placenta and this, like, miracle birth of the infected baby, or not even really a miracle birth, because he kind of writes it off as, like, kind of expected this to happen. Actually, this was something that I had on my bingo card. So, like, it's not even that big of a deal to him, even though the movie's setting this whole thing up as, like, a big deal, and then the alpha's hunting to try and get his baby back. And it doesn't really, like, I don't think it did much. It was just, like, a huge, like, weird tangent from what we'd been following with the emotional journey of Spike and his mother. And another thing that adds to this tonal whiplash is this new character they also introduce, which is Eric, who is a soldier who ends up stranded there, and all of his squad is wiped out by the infected after their ship crashed and they were doing like the quarantine patrol, but they hit something, they said, and then they washed up on shore and then had to fight to survive. He's the only one that made it. He's making a bunch of jokes, so he becomes the comic relief character, just making wisecracks like, you guys probably don't even know what the internet is here, do you? Primitive. That kind of thing. Because he saves them, and then he joins them, and then he's like immediately killed off, so it doesn't even go anywhere. It just once again like changes the whole tone and focus of the movie. It just felt weird to go back and forth like that. But by far, the most egregious problem with this film is its ending. Its ending is, I think it is one of the most surprisingly stupid endings I've seen maybe in the last like 5 years. I'm trying to think of something in recent memory stupider than this. I'd put this onto like almost Moonfall level of unexpected lunacy. The film ends with, I'm trying not to spoil everything here, but the film ends with Spike going through like this change. Now, instead of being the scared kid we saw at the beginning, he's gone through so much hardship, he's learned so much after everything with his mother and the doctor. He now wants to be on his own out in the mainland, away from the shelter, to kind of just brave it all on his own and get after it. And it's a decision that I think makes sense for Spike. Like, I think that is a strong character arc. And while he's doing this, he gets attacked by some infected. They come running at him like the Titans from Attack on Titan. He shoots them with arrows, but he's about to be overrun. And then a guy pops out, and he's basically a fucking cartoon character. The guy pops out, his name's Jimmy, and he's like, "Great shooting, Tex, but I think there's a little too many for you. Mind if we step in?" And I shit you not, he summons the Power Rangers. He summons ninjas. And what they do is they come in with melee weapons like spears and like even doohickeys, like gadgets that'll like go-go gadget extendo weapons, so they'll make like a chain in between there. And they just start like meleeing all of the infected, but not just melee them, they're doing like an acrobatic showcase. It's like a Cirque du Soleil performance. So they're like jumping off walls, they're doing flips. They're literally doing flips while killing them, and they're doing like somersaults, and then when they finish, oh, and not only that, they have like a metal music playing. I'm using that lightly. It's basically just some chugs on the guitar, and it's supposed to be the Teletubbies theme. And then when they finish it off, they do a pose, which is this. They go, ha, like that. They all do that pose, and they're all named Jimmy. So it's a cult. And this cult is something that was a seed that was planted throughout the movie with Jimmy. You see his name on a building once, and in the very beginning of the film, the opening sequence with the kids where they get slaughtered by the infected, those kids are these individuals. So the idea is they are likely infected, so they're enhanced, and now they are this cult that is recruiting Spike into their ranks. The theater was giggling when this was happening. It is so out of nowhere and so different from everything this movie had been doing up to this point that it just felt like a joke. It was a weird decision to end the movie with that. I really don't understand why. And like, it doesn't make me hype for the sequel. Because if that's going to be the energy of the sequel, it's really not why I like the franchise. I don't really want to see them doing somersaults and backflips and hitting karate and kung fu on infected. That just, I don't know, it's dumb, I thought. I thought the ending was just terrible. Like, I thought it was really terrible. It doesn't ruin the movie for me or anything. Like I said, I still really do like 28 Years Later, but it was very different than what I was expecting. In some ways, positively, but in quite a few ways, negatively as well. I definitely don't think it's the best in the 28 Days Later franchise. I definitely don't think it's a 95 or 96% on Rotten Tomatoes level of quality here. I think it was good. I think it was a good movie. I enjoyed it. And yeah, that's really about it. So yeah. The Borderlands movie is finally out, and Jiminy Christmas, it's atrocious. It doesn't matter your take on the Borderlands series, if you love the games, if you hate the games. If you see this movie, you will hate it. It is just bad across the board, regardless of your taste. I am stunned by how bad it actually is. I didn't have the highest hopes for it, but you have to try really hard to make a movie this terrible. So I went last night to see it with a bunch of my friends. We were 10 heads deep to see the Borderlands movie because this is one of those special stinkers that had a lot of hype. 0% on Rotten Tomatoes when it debuted, a 3 from IGN, which is unheard of. IGN gives fucking anything a 5. If they watched an hour and a half of the peanut butter jelly time banana gif going back and forth, they'd probably rate that a 5. And they gave this a 3. So we knew that this was going to be something impressively bad. But I don't think any of us expected just how boring, lame, and just downright nauseatingly, insultingly worthless this film is. I have nothing good to say about it. I'm going to go ahead and play clips from when we were kind of debriefing after witnessing this war crime, but I'm going to speed run like the basics. I'm not even going to bother talking about how unrecognizable this movie is from the source material. It doesn't even bother to try and be a comedy. Like, I think the Borderlands humor hasn't aged super well, but I still like Borderlands 1 and 2 a lot. I don't like 3 or any of the games that followed, but I really like 1 and 2. And I thought, bare minimum, this would be trying to take that DNA of that humor and put it in this movie. It doesn't. There's like almost no comedic moments in this film at all, except for Jack Black doing his best to try and make Claptrap entertaining. He's like the only one putting any kind of soul into this at all. Everything else is like the most flat NPC shit ever. It felt like everyone in this movie just didn't want to be there at all, except for Jack Black, who was at least trying. But I'm not even going to talk about how different this is from the Borderlands source material. I just want to talk about how bad it is just from a movie perspective. This movie had an over $100 million budget, and I don't know where the fuck that went. They need to be investigated for money laundering because there is some fishiness afoot here. Something has gone awry. The movie looks horrible. Like, visually, it is bad. Claptrap is, like, the only thing that looks pretty good, and apparently they didn't even credit some of the people that worked on Claptrap. There's quite a bit of controversy around that right now. And Claptrap is the only thing that actually looks consistently decent. All of the action, it's like you stick your head into a fucking washing machine that's going through, like, a rapid cycle. You can't tell what's happening with the action because there's no choreography. The camera's doing this like they're playing Beat Saber with the camera. It's terrible. The action, they don't even use the core component of Borderlands, which is the guns. The guns aren't here. They only use like the most basic guns, which is an assault rifle and a pistol. Now they do have the Infinity pistol, but they don't explore that being cool at all. It's fundamentally still just a normal pistol in this movie. They don't do anything cool with the guns or anything. I know I said I'd not like talk about how different it is from the IP, but I think it's important to mention this for the action. The guns basically are non-existent here. Don't even go into this thinking that that's going to play a role, because they don't. All of the action is, for the most part, shoot, shake the camera a lot when someone's doing like melee, hand-to-hand, close quarters combat, and then go to the next scene. And it's all so meaningless. There is, at no point in this film, any resistance, per se. Everything goes exactly how it needs to, without any like emotional stakes, without any kind of like actual obstacles. They forgot like a core component of the film is something that needs to be overcome. You know, like this big moment doesn't exist here. Everything is just this fucking cakewalk with characters that seem actually bored. Every character seems truly miserable to be acting in the film. And I don't blame them, because the material they were given was 100% spit out by ChatGPT. I'm tired of using that criticism, but it's becoming so apparent when AI is used here, and I am confident that all of the attempts at comedy were AI-generated jokes. I wrote down a couple of them, and you'll see that in the debriefing, but they used some of the most cliche lines we've all heard a million times unironically in this movie. It's so baffling that this actually hit the big screen. There is not a single audience I could imagine latching onto this and liking it. Fans of the game are gonna hate it. Fans of movies are gonna hate it because the movie's shit. They're like, the only people that might like it is masochists, perhaps. I love bad movies, and this is not a bad movie that's enjoyable. It's truly awful to sit through. There is nothing fun about it. There's no charm. There's no anything. It's just actually so empty. It can't even tell its own story cohesively. This feels like Randy Pitchford had a wet dream and then pieced together this movie based off the little fragments he could remember about it. It is like nothing works and nothing is actually cohesive. So the story it tells horribly because it's so abrupt, changing things all the time or having like really convenient moments or just completely useless moments. Like you could probably cut out 40 minutes of this film, and it's not a long movie, it's only like an hour 20, but you could comfortably, I think, cut out 40 minutes and nothing changes. The movie plays out exactly the same. It's just very, very bad. So here, I'm gonna play clips from when we were debriefing. We saw Borderlands. The hype was there. 0% on Rotten Tomatoes debut, 3 from IGN, which is very rare. That means it almost doesn't function for IGN to go that low. And they were generous. Yeah, that movie super sucks. Temperature, how's everyone feeling?
I want to die.
I'm maybe the biggest Borderlands fan that I know, and that made me hate the franchise.
Yep, that sounds
Which makes me very sad.
Aaron's puking in the bathroom. Danny slept through.
I was telling them, I have literally never in my life fallen asleep in a movie theater before until this movie. I slept for maybe an hour of the hour and 20 minutes at that runtime.
So
that was truly the worst movie I've ever seen in my life.
And not fun bad either.
No, it was very
not
just
fun bad
actually bad.
So I took notes. And that's rare. Usually I reserve this for only the biggest stinkers. I think comfortably that's the worst movie of the year. It's worse than Tarot. So when Danny fell asleep, I made a timestamp mark when I noticed. You fell asleep about 24 minutes into the film.
That sounds about right, yep.
Good.
And I honestly think that you experienced it the best. Like, I think if you're forced to go see Borderlands, you did the right thing and just slept through most of it. Because it is insufferably bad. So let's talk about what makes it so bad, huh, guys? What makes it so bad? I think for $110 million, they made a CW movie.
Yeah.
That movie visually is irredeemable. It
That's
looks
actually extremely offensive to CW.
The set dressing looked like it was all made of plastic.
Set dressing?
Yeah, like, that's what I'm saying. It was like fucking Party City. They walked in and they were like, let's put up streamers, I guess.
I did not know CGI in today's world could be that bad.
And it's not even I always say this, it's not the VFX team, like lack of talent, it's lack of time.
Yes.
That looks like they forced it out as quickly as they could. And it is incomplete.
No, at the end when they showed the big cat, not to spoil it, when they showed the canyon that they go to get to the vault, it actually looks like they just ultra keyed out like the background and they put in, and they were like, this is the rest of the canyon back here.
And all of it, like, I never want to be that person who's like, oh, it's not true to the games kind of thing. But like, the simplest things were not true to the game. One, having a 50-year-old actor play Lilith made no sense.
What?
Yeah, the mother is this fucking linchpin character for the plot, doesn't have a name, is on screen for maybe less than a minute. Like,
Foxy, who keeps saying that,
is younger. She is younger than Lilith.
Kate Blanchett. Like,
which doesn't make sense.
and also,
it doesn't connect.
who fucking cares about spoilers at this point? Lilith, towards the end, it's like, oh my god, I'm chosen. I'm a siren. And she learns it, which in the time frame of who's in the movie makes no sense at all. Like, it doesn't add up.
It's fucking insane.
But it led to some really cool moments where when she realizes she's the chosen one, she sprouts wings and she just does this a lot.
Floating in air like
and giving
this.
people force fields.
She gives them like Destiny 2 buffs for a second.
Yeah, that was
She's like an ultimate.
We haven't even gotten into the dialogue.
Yeah, so
that movie, we were in the Uber back talking about how it was like they ADR'd the entire movie.
Yeah.
I think the ADR, they just recorded a table read from when they were first reading the script.
Right?
Yeah.
No, the guy playing Krieg, they didn't even tell the actor in the costume to go like shake your head up and down so maybe.
No, he was stone cold, like solid the whole time. Even when his voice lines were going.
I wrote down a couple of my favorites because it does feel like I hate to use this because it's overused now as a criticism, but it really does feel like it was all AI generated. So it feels derivative of everything that's ever come before it. Unironically, these were some of the lines used. I'm too old for this shit. You in what army?
The one right behind
The
me.
one right behind me. Wait, where'd my other ones go? Oh yeah. It's a shame your mother's not here to see this. Reminding her that her mother's
They
dead.
probably said that 18 times
Yeah.
in the whole movie.
At least,
Wait, the absolute best one is where she goes,
Oh yeah.
So your dad is so and so, right? And she goes, yes and no. And then she goes, it wasn't a yes or no question. And it's like, bitch, yes it was.
That's literally a yes or no
Is
question.
this your dad? Yes or no? That wasn't a yes or no question. I got mad.
I told them in the Danny and Matt on the Uber back, I was like, I think they weren't allowed to make new words for this movie, so they had a bunch of scripts around and they were kind of mad-libbing lines from
It's
them.
like a Zodiac killer. Like,
yeah,
yes.
like they were
Yeah.
pacing
Yeah.
lines. Also, I think that scene, the only thing I could possibly explain it is they had a bunch of different drafts of the script and they were taking bits and pieces, but they never went back and double checked to see if anything contradicted. So they were just like, okay, here's the movie. I think we have an hour and a half.
Is they had all of this budget and they spent it on Kevin Hart, Kate Blanchett, and Jack Black,
Yeah.
and nothing else.
No, Jamie Lee Curtis.
Oh, and
Yeah,
Jamie Lee
Jamie Lee
Curtis.
Curtis.
And Jamie Lee Curtis.
Tannis being 85 for no fucking reason.
And
absolutely
a fucking, like, afraid of everything pussy baby? That is not... She's such a psychopath comedian that she fucking hates everybody, and she's like, oh no, oh god.
They did give us Jamie Lee Curtis cleavage.
That's true.
Yeah, thank goodness.
They
We
did
all
have,
wanted.
they did have like a shot of her yams for some reason.
Nothing against.
I was awake for that part.
Oh, I know you were.
I woke him right the
Danny
fuck up.
fucking went from closed eyes to ooga conkers.
It was my favorite every time anything new happened, and they were like, oh wow, look at this place. And Claptrap would go, this is your house, right? And she's like, yes, this is my house. Thank you for noticing. Like, they announced every single thing that was
Yeah,
happening.
it feels like they thought the audience would actually be lobotomites, so anything that happens
Yeah.
gets like this in-depth explanation for what it
just-
means.
It just kind of hit me. I think this movie was made to be watched on a second monitor. It's made so that if you're sitting there and you never even a single time for an hour and a half go, huh?
Yeah, I feel like this criticism is often used for like video game movies of who is this movie for?
Yeah.
Legitimately nobody.
It legit felt like it was made for no one because it doesn't respect the source material whatsoever.
it is made-
And also like there's references that you would only get if you played the video game.
Yeah, and normal people wouldn't like this movie either.
I was gonna say it's made for one person and it's Randy Pitchford.
Yeah.
And the craziest part is they don't even do the thing where they do the rule of thirds because Marcus shows up, he's like, I'm the bus driver, and then he's like, I'm the guy selling guns.
And that's it.
And then he's like, I'm not in the movie ever. Maybe that's the best joke, because they're like, there is no third time Marcus shows up.
Yeah.
It's just the two.
So it legitimately doesn't work on its own two legs. The movie, it doesn't know what to do. So, big spoiler, at the end of the film, General Knox is not the Knox from the games, and nothing is like it is in the games,
Nope.
but Knox, in the context of the film, is hunting the entire film.
You know what's crazy? I don't know who you're talking about.
Really?
I literally don't know
It
who you're
was,
talking
He also
about.
gets knocked out randomly at the beginning for no reason.
Yeah.
Just to be like me.
Yeah, the Crimson Lance girl.
Yeah. The
That's
main
so
No.
wild because
You were awake.
Yeah.
You were awake.
No, she's the one that pulls up when she first finds Tina. She's the one that pulls up on the bike and is like, "Hey, girl."
Is she the one that got shot right at the end?
Yes.
Like,
Yeah.
when she was like, wait a second, I gotta say. And
That's
she
what
doesn't exist.
Yeah.
She doesn't exist. She's not. She's
She becomes an ally to
cyborg.
them for no reason. She's like, don't shoot, and then gets disintegrated.
Entire story
Yeah.
is General Knox is hunting them down.
Is the guys? Is Atlas goes, shoot? He goes, shoot those guys, kill them all, and then she goes, wait! And every single person. Well,
And they go, "You're the general."
They literally, like the
Yeah,
voice
they
goes,
did say
"You're
that.
the general. We listen to you."
He shoots. He says, "Shoot them, kill them all," and then none of them shoot for legitimately probably 5 seconds, and
Yeah.
then she goes, "Wait a minute!" And then they continue to not shoot, and she walks up and she's like, "You're right, Roland. He's not right, really. He didn't do a single thing. We should," and then gets vaporized. Like it's. Everything that happens in this movie could be removed, and there would be no consequence to the rest of the story.
Remember when Roland sacrificed himself to 20,000 gun-wielding murderers and then just got up out from under their corpses? He's like, damn, it was a hard day of work. I'm so tired and sore after
And they
that.
had the gall, they had the absolute chutzpah to try and make it emotional.
I know. Like, why?
Well, and then the other thing too, the combat
Oh, it's
the choreography was
so bad. It's like the shaky cam is on another
there
level.
was quick cuts to try to make you feel the action, which failed.
So what I was saying about like narratively, it doesn't work either. It's so disjointed. So like Knox at the very end, that she's been hunting them this whole movie, ruthless. There's no like indication she's turning or anything.
Nope.
And at the very end, she's like, "Everybody, fucking stop!" and then dies. Like nothing. And there's so many scenes in this movie that don't do anything.
The heroes face zero resistance the entire movie.
Yeah, no.
Like,
At all.
things will come up, and even the final fight starts to happen, and then they just win. And then at the end of the movie, she puts the big shields up when she gets the powers, and they're like, haha, I can't be hurt. Then she gets blasted by a gun.
And then they still don't get
She
hurt.
headbutts a force
That
field.
was-
Yeah, she did it to herself.
Yeah.
She just flew. I was awake for that. She just flew forward and was like, "Whoops."
Well, and then everybody
Ragdoll
uses her
gets it
special Destiny 2 shield power-ups,
And it didn't matter.
and
No.
just continues to fight as they did before.
Yeah.
They don't even say like, fuck,
Yeah,
I
well,
lost.
Kevin Hart literally goes, "Oh, well, that was fun while it lasted," and,
And then
then
keeps
nothing
going.
happened.
Yeah, he just keeps going.
we
Besides us, yeah.
Besides us, there was 2 people in that theater, and apparently no one's seeing this
And they
fucking
were
movie.
all back there with us, huddled up for warmth. Apparently, if you weren't within our proximity, we were all just gonna freeze.
I
No,
cannot
I'm
tell you
super
how many times during that movie you or I just went,
Yeah.
This
Why?
was always
what?
happening.
Loved though when the hologram popped up and she goes, if you're seeing this, and
I'm already
I
dead.
went, I'm already dead.
Yep.
Thinking they're not gonna say that. And she says that. I was like, why?
Yeah.
Like, who wrote
It
this
was
shit,
so
man?
stupid.
There's nothing. That's it. There's
That
nothing.
is seriously,
There's
there's just
nothing.
nothing
When I
to
went
like
to
in
the
that.
bathroom, I had to pee, I thought. And then I stood there and it took a few seconds for the stream to start and I was like, I think my body was just like
Get me
faking
out.
the reaction.
Yeah.
So I had to leave.
We can go around the room. I'd probably give it like a 12%-ish, somewhere in that ballpark out of 100%.
I'm truly gonna go 0. You're wasting money if you see that movie.
I need you guys to understand how many shitty movies I go see with Charlie. This is the worst movie I've ever seen. It is a 0. It is worse than Moonball.
Yeah, it had the gun, the infinity, so 1.
Okay.
This has tainted my love for the franchise. This will be a stain in my brain for the rest of my life. I hope this is not the last thing I think about before I die.
Percentage.
0. Did you need one?
0.5.
I don't think I can give one because I fell asleep.
No, give one from the moments you were lucid.
The moments are lucid. If it's 0, it's too high.
It's really good. But just like Pinocchio, when he finally proved his selflessness, I'm gonna be real. I'm gonna be honest here. I didn't love it as much as I thought I would, and I didn't love it as much as everyone else seems to. I went into Nosferatu expecting this to be one of my favorite movies of the year. In fact, it's the sole reason I haven't done a top 5 movies of 2024 yet, because I was so certain that this film was going to enter into that top 5. I had expectations out the wazoo on it. Maybe unfairly so, but I just had a whole lot of faith in it because very talented director. The trailer I thought was incredible. Usually I'm not super impressed by trailers, but this one I actually was. I thought it was a really good looking movie. I love the Dracula tale. I mean, ever since I saw Bram Stoker's Dracula, I've always thought it was a very cool story, and this is a very talented director putting his spin on the story. This seemed like a fucking slam dunk to me. And in a lot of ways, in a lot of departments, it is, but it's definitely not in my top 5 films of the year. I did like it. I liked it very much, but I'm not going to be gushing grannies over this one, unfortunately. I have a lot of great things to say about it, but I know at this point no one gives a fuck about that since I've said all of this. No one's going to care about my compliments. I think now they just want to hear the complaints on why I feel differently about it than most people seem to. But I'd still like to start with all the compliments because, again, this is a very good movie. I think the style of the film is spectacular. It is probably my favorite movie stylistically of the year. Every scene is just gorgeous, and the atmosphere is haunting, chilling. Like, every shot is breathtaking. It is so good. And it also really helps that the acting, all of the performances are outstanding. Extraordinary work. I dare say it might even be better than my performance in The Hunger Games Mockingjay Part 1. And you know I don't give that compliment out lightly. Everyone in here really did an immaculate job breathing life into their characters. And speaking of breathing life, let's talk about death. Nosferatu himself, Count Orlok, this is probably the best depiction of Dracula. He's not like Gary Oldman, where he's basically just like a fucking swagged out man who's a smooth talker and charming. No. Bill Skarsgård as Count Orlok, he's a monster. He's just actually a revolting monster. He looks like one of Nurgle's disciples from Warhammer 40k. He is this blistering, oozing, rotting thing. And it is menacing. And it helps that Bill Skarsgård did such a good job of making this character scary. Every time he is on screen and speaking, it's like a holy shit, what is this thing? This isn't the same kind of Dracula depiction I think anyone was expecting, certainly not me, where it's like, oh, there's still like some kind of human element to the monster. But no, Count Orlok is actually just death. He is evil incarnate. There is not even a single moment of humanization. He is a plague, a miasma that kills all, and that is that. He is just an evil thing. And I love that. I think that is a great direction for this character. And Bill Skarsgård crushed it. Another thing I didn't expect is that the film is pretty heavy on horror. I didn't think that this would actually be, a horror movie. I thought there'd be elements of it. But no, it's really a pretty strong horror film in its own right. So that was a pleasant surprise, because they did horror well. It builds tension effectively. You get the feeling nobody is safe because Count Orlok truly is just an evil monster that will kill anyone at any time. It was a very nice surprise to see just how much they were committed to unnerving the audience. And I think they really accomplished that goal. But now I want to get into some things that I don't think worked all that well. I guess for me personally. This movie, time doesn't really exist. Every character in this film has unlocked fast travel. And I mean that in the truest sense of the word. So the film starts where we have Thomas, who is going to Count Orlok for some business. I feel like if you've seen Bram Stoker's Dracula, you'll kind of know that premise. It doesn't follow Bram Stoker's Dracula 1-to-1 or anything, but there is clearly some elements that are shared between them. It's, Dracula's story at its core. And Nosferatu takes that and it builds on it in a really, really beautiful way. But in the beginning, you have Thomas, and he's going to Count Orlok's. They make it clear that this is a pretty arduous journey. It's a 6-week venture out there. It's not quick by any means. But he gets there pretty quickly, which is fine. You don't need to spend 6 weeks on the fucking Oregon Trail, right? You don't need to know everything that happens on the journey. He gets there and it's nightmarish. It's a really good set of sequences that happen that showcase just how fucked up and deranged Count Orlok is. And Thomas is feeling the effects of, I'm actually here with the devil right now. It's great stuff. And then Thomas eventually, he escapes. I guess this is getting into spoilers now. I'm going to give spoiler warnings here, but there's no way I can talk about my complaints without getting into spoilers. So he's able to get out of there, and his wife, Ellen, she's very concerned. She didn't want him to go on this trip. She's had all of these nightmares that feel real, and there's a lot of things that she knows that she should know because of this strange set of nightmares that happen and the things that go on while she sleeps. So she knows that things are pretty perilous, and Thomas still goes, and then all that happens. He escapes, and there's this tension of, man, what's happening with Thomas? I hope Thomas is okay, and that's felt with Ellen as well as Thomas's friend, who is taking care of her in his abode. And they're all concerned. And then Thomas kind of just rolls up on horseback like lickety-split. So Thomas escapes, and he gets nursed back to health by some religious people that are able to help kind of stifle away the curse of Count Orlok. Now, this is another complaint I have where convenient things just seem to happen with people that are omniscient. So when Thomas escapes, one of the people of the faith happen to see him on the shore. They bring him into the church, and they immediately know everything that he has experienced without him ever telling them. So they are beyond knowledgeable about what has gone on to him and also how to fix it to the best of their ability and heal him. And they do that very quickly. It's only like a 5-minute scene. And then he rides away on horseback. And then like 3 scenes later, he's back with Ellen and everybody else in like the main hub. That was a 6-week journey that he has now just made in 3 scenes without any real feeling that a lot of time has passed between these events. Now, they do have an offhanded mention of months going by, but that's not something you would ever get without them just briefly mentioning it in passing. Now, admittedly, that kind of thing also happens in Bram Stoker's Dracula, but to a lesser degree. There was more time with Keanu Reeves in the castle, and it felt like a longer time had gone by before he made it back. Here, he gets in and gets out pretty quickly, and that is something that stays true throughout the whole film. So there is a time limit that Count Orlok puts on love, saying, there's 3 nights now. You have 3 nights, Ellen. And on one of the nights, on night 2, something tragic happens, where someone's family is murdered. And in the morning, the person wakes up, realizes this, and then somehow all in the same day is able to throw a funeral, have that service, go back, talk again and strategize about this plague, and then still have time to once again go back to that funeral, to the cemetery, excuse me. All of this happens in a day somehow. So he must have woke up, saw his family's dead, and said, all right, immediately, Jarvis, we need to schedule the funeral now. Like, how the fuck could you have gone from something that horrific to having the funeral in a matter of minutes, I guess? Because that's the only way that the timeline makes sense. He would have immediately had to have that funeral. It's just really weird to me, unless I somehow missed something. Now, they do have, like, coffins that are going down the streets for some other shots because of the plague that is coming through. So I'm guessing it's entirely possible that, well, he just immediately wrapped them up in the coffin and just sent them to the cemetery for a quick service. But I just feel like that's really out of character for that guy to do, because he loved his family so much. I don't think he would have immediately tried to speed run the grief process, the mourning, and a funeral. So like, it just feels like time doesn't really exist properly in the film. So even though they say 3 nights, it feels like weeks pass. There's a couple other instances I can point to, but there's no need. You get what I'm trying to say. It just felt a little weird that every character seemed to have Goku instant transmission. But it didn't bother me all that much because it kept the pacing moving. Not that I mind slow pacing, but there are a couple moments where the pacing does get a bit awkward. Again, that's not even like a complaint or anything. But what is a complaint, and it's my biggest complaint, is that it really feels like no matter what the characters did here, they didn't actually have any effect on the story. So even something unexpected like Tom's escaping. Count Orlok didn't plan on that, and when he gets the news he escaped, he was surprised. But he even says, hey, he could be useful to me. And ultimately, it just truly didn't matter that he escaped. His escape did nothing to throw a monkey wrench into anything at all. None of the characters' presence or their decisions did anything at all with the story itself and the way that it progresses. They are kind of just spectators watching what happens and learning why it's happening. So that just kind of felt underwhelming, that what the characters were doing just really wasn't mattering. They were kind of just trying to figure out, well, what is Nosferatu? What's going on here? And why is Ellen so haunted? What is the connection here? And then when shit's hitting the fan with some fart on top because of a plague that's coming through killing everybody, they're trying to figure out, well, what can we do to stop this and, stop Nosferatu? And they never really get a plan in motion. They get the semblance of a plan and they act on something that one of the characters knows actually doesn't matter. That is the point. He is literally doing something he knows doesn't matter because what's happening is already predetermined. It's on rails and none of the characters can do anything to stop it. So when the movie concludes, it feels a little underwhelming that all of these characters that we've come to know and love really didn't have an effect on the plot. It was one character making the decision that the bad character wanted them to the whole time, and that's that. It just feels a little lackluster. I don't mind movies that don't have a happy ending. In fact, some of my favorite pieces of media don't have happy endings. A non-happy ending can sometimes be the most powerful one. But here, it just felt like the journey was an ultimately meaningless one. Like, these characters never actually even fought against Nosferatu in any sense of the word. Like, I don't mean fucking pugilistic throwing down with him or anything silly like that. I mean, they really didn't do anything that had him concerned that his plan wasn't going to work. Everything went exactly the way it was said to in the very beginning. And that'd be fine if there was at least a couple of moments where, like, oh, the characters might actually do something to stop him. Like, there's stakes where, like, the characters are going to pull through and come up with a great solution here to fix this and save everyone or something. They're going to fight back against evil. But they never actually do. There is one thing that gets set in motion, like I mentioned, where they thought they were about to do something to Nosferatu, but one character knew the whole time they weren't. And they didn't. And for me personally, that just doesn't feel very satisfying, especially when you buy into this love story between Ellen and Thomas about, like, how powerful that love is, that it can overcome evil and defy evil, defy Nosferatu. But it doesn't. It never even for a second makes Nosferatu think that it might. Like, there was never any defying of Nosferatu at all. It's just, I don't know, it felt very unsatisfying for me in that regard. And that is pretty much the sole reason why it's not, like, in my top 5 of the year. There is a lot I really like about the movie. Like, there's a lot I could glaze it on. And there is a lot that I mentioned at the beginning that I did glaze it on. But this one thing for me is just kind of a big deal because for a movie like this, you buy into these characters. The performances are amazing. The storytelling is great. Like, everything is getting you hooked. But as it gets towards the end, the characters aren't actually even directly participating. It's just showing you, reminding you, the characters are powerless. That it is a hopeless situation here. And the best they can do is learn about Nosferatu so they can realize just how powerless they are against him. And that's just not super fulfilling, I don't feel. So it just feels like, oh, well, that's just sad. You know, like, it just feels, for me, unsatisfying. So yeah, I like the movie a lot. I just don't love it like I thought I would and like everyone else seems to be loving it. And that's okay. I feel like that's all right. We can like different things to different degrees, I would say, when it comes to movies like Nosferatu. Anyway, though, I definitely think it's worth watching. That's about it. See ya. I've recently been having trouble sleeping. I know. Play a sad song on the world's smallest violin. But today I got tired at 10 o'clock, and I hit the bed by 10:30, and I actually caught some Z's. I haven't gone to sleep at 10:30 since high school. And I snoozed for about 3 hours. Then I couldn't go back to sleep. That's why I don't try to go to bed early. I literally can't, my body gets me up. Now I know you didn't come here to hear me yap about my sleeping trouble, but I gave you a little piece of it regardless. You came here to hear me complain about a movie, and you're not getting that either. I actually didn't hate this film. What film am I talking about? Just realized I didn't even tell you what movie. Hard Eyes. I only saw this because people said it was surprisingly good, and I couldn't believe them, because all the trailers just made it seem like a really generic, shitty slasher film that maybe had a chance at being fun bad, but I thought it was a movie that maybe I'd watch when it hit streaming, and that would be that. But people started to glaze it, and I got curious. I said, let's see what all the fuss is about. What's this hubbub? And hey, walked out of that theater pretty happy. I don't think it's an amazing movie. Far from it. But it's a very self-aware movie. It knows what it is. It's a rom-com slasher, and somehow it works pretty well. It works well as a slasher, and it works well as just like a date movie. A tough balancing act, but it somehow pulls it off really well, and I think it's because the movie's very self-aware. It knows that this isn't unique. You know, a Valentine's Day killing movie, that's not an original concept. It's nothing that someone's gonna be like, whoa, what an interesting blend of genres here. It's been done a million times, you know. What's next? A movie with boobies in it? Who could ever do that? And it's fine. It's unapologetically okay with that fact. So, the slasher part of this film, because the film's kind of two separate things. It's a slasher, and it's also just like a rom-com, which usually would get my eyes rolling, but it does it very well here. So, let's talk about the slasher part of the film first. It's good. A lot of gory, over-the-top, silly kills. It's also a really dumb concept. This killer has heart eyes on his mask, and he's hunting couples on Valentine's Day. Whoa! Holy shit! And that's exactly what happens. Somehow, Hard Eyes is just normal human being that's stabbing people using throwing knives like a Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 kill cams and like a little crossbow type thing. Kind of like what Guts has from Berserk. He has the same shit and he just shoots people with the arrows. It's cool. And it leads to some really fun sequences that are very explosively gory to a comical degree. Like I said, this movie is very self-aware, so it'll have some kills in here that it knows are stupid. For example, there's a beheading in here that is just like straight out of a cartoon. They get like a blade through their neck, but they're a little off the ground, so then gravity starts yanking on them, and then their head is ripping apart slowly, and it's like spaghetti noodles holding it together as the flesh is ripping. And it's, you know, then the head falls off and lands in their lap. Like, it's very, like, to me, it seems like they were just having fun when coming up with creative kills, and it's, like, again, there's nothing new here. There's no kills you haven't seen before in other films. It's just executed strongly. Now, what really surprised me is that all of the romance dating side of this film actually works. The chemistry between the two main characters is really good, and I really think it's because the dude here, he is like the actual Riz sorcerer. This guy's like the warlock of Wu. Like, this guy was such a smooth talker, he almost had me sucking farts out his butt. So he is, like, at all times, just this Casanova with this girl who's like she's a tough nut to crack. You know, she doesn't like love. She may work in an industry that promotes love, but she herself doesn't believe in it. In fact, she's afraid of it and running from it. And yet this guy, he's trying to get through to her. No, love is great. I'm a hopeless romantic in a world filled with romanced heathens, that kind of thing. And while it sounds cringy, and it is cringy in a lot of instances, it knows that. So it somehow is able to just be cringy in like the right ways, that the romance side of this works so fucking well. Like, this dude is what Redditors used to think they were back in 2012 when they would ask each other for dating advice. It's this guy. And watching it on the big screen, it somehow just like works really well in the context of this film. So I was just never bored when watching the dating side of this film, the actual romance of it. I actually had fun. And the jokes in this movie weren't bad. Like, there was actually a couple times where I giggled, which you would never catch me giggling at a modern rom-com. And this one, it did it. It really, like, it never felt like it was a parody either, which is surprising to me, because that's a very tough thing to, like, skirt the line on, where it becomes so self-aware that it is now a parody of the genre that it's in. It doesn't do that somehow, and that's surprising because there's a couple times where, like, Hard Eyes is hunting down our two main characters, and they'll make, like, a quip, you know, like a Marvel quip, like, "We're not even dating, can you just go kill somebody else? Jeepers, zoinks!" They don't say the last part, but they do say, like, "Hey, we're not even dating, just can you go kill somebody else?" That kind of thing. And it actually feels in line for these characters, not to the point where it's satirical, it actually just feels like a quirk that they'd have, where they'd say some shit like that in a really intense situation. The movie just does a good job of making you care about these characters and buy into them. So you actually want to see them succeed against the Hard Eye Killer. Now, I praised the movie a lot, but there's some shit in here that just stinks. And I'm gonna get into spoilers. Full warning, I'm gonna get into spoilers. Watch out! Beware! Okay, you've been warned. I really hate the ending of the film. Not so much like the kills that happen at the end and like the big climax of it. I hate that the film just wants to be Scream again. It wanted to just be Scream really bad, and I got that DNA sprinkled throughout the whole film, because obviously you're going to pick up on the hints of Scream throughout it. You'll definitely get that aroma, but it really does go hog wild on just wanting to be Scream at the very end. When they reveal that there's multiple Hard Eye Killers, it's actually a throuple. There's 3 of them, and they're all romantically involved, kind of. One of them was just a big fan of the Hard Eyes Killer, so they let him become one. I guess that doesn't make sense, but okay. I just thought that was so weak and stupid. It wasn't even... Not even like stupid to the point where it felt sensical in the film. It just felt kind of lazy, you know? And I really hate that the motivation for the killings is a kink. In fact, they say verbatim, killing couples is our kink. And then they even put like a fucking Vocaloid on that last word where it goes, kink. And it's like, what? Like, what? Come on. It can't be that dumb. And it is. It is that dumb. It did subvert my expectations. I thought it was going to be something like, had my heart broken, so now I'm breaking hearts. Literally. That kind of thing. So I guess, you know, kudos to them for not doing that. But I also don't really like this where it's just a fetish. And it's really weird where, like, one of the Hard Eyes killers is saying to the other Hard Eyes killer, you know, like, yeah, it makes us so hot seeing these couples so in love and then we take their life. And then they're, like, kissing each other and then she's licking his face going, while they're talking about killing the couples. Like, it's very over the top, which fits in line with the movie, but it just feels, like, so, like, dumb to the point where, like, it stops being fun, it just starts being dumb. And then he even says some, like, real embarrassing stuff like, yes, mommy, I will kill them, mommy. Oh. And he'll, like, even moan sometimes. It's, I don't know. I just thought the ending was really fucking weak. I did not like that. I do like the final showdown with the Hard Eyes couple, thruple, whatever. Like, I think that worked well, but man, it was just, it's so stupid. But it didn't make me, like, hate the film. I don't think it ruined the film by any means, but I feel like you could have done something a little different. Maybe. I don't know. Maybe I'm an outlier in that fact. Maybe people will see that and they'll be like, oh, wow, that was crazy. That was amazing. I love that it turned out to just be a weird kink. Yay, yippee. But for me, I just thought, damn, that shit kind of sucks. Another thing I thought that the movie didn't do very well is making the Hard Eyes killer scary. Hard Eyes, throughout this entire film, you could tell was just like a normal person. Not only were they extremely inefficient at their kills, for the most part, like, a lot of it was for the sport of hunting them down, but they were, like, easily overpowered multiple times throughout the movie. Like, from the very beginning, they kind of established that Hard Eyes is kind of like a bumbling buffoon. So, like, when chasing one of the victims, you know, he'd get his hand hit in the door and be like, ouch, ooh, and he even goes like, ah, ee. You know, like, actually just getting beaten sometimes. Now, he did ultimately end up killing that person, but still, they never established Hard Eyes as, like, this super strong force, like a very terrifying presence. It was always just a guy with some blades, who's also just not even, like, a good shot with that little crossbow. He misses more times than he hits. He does kill people with it, for sure, but the majority of the time he's not hitting them. And it's also just kind of underwhelming how often Hard Eyes gets beaten in, like, a 1v1. So, like, the girl, when she's getting hunted by Hard Eyes, the main girl, Hard Eyes is about to get her, and she hits him with, like, I forgot, like a trash can or something. He's like, ah! And then he's going again, and then she kicks him, and he's like, ooh! And then, like, starts falling, and then it's on, like, a merry-go-round. And then she kicks him again, and he's like, ah! And then, like, flies away, like, literally ragdolls Hard Eyes. And you're watching Hard Eyes just get, like, tossed around like fucking dirty laundry, and it's like, this is the killer? How has he even been successful at killing people for so many years? He is getting manhandled right now. So, like, I don't think they did a great job of making Hard Eyes like this really, you know, scary, super adept killing machine. It was just kind of like a dude who sometimes successfully kills people, which is fine. Again, that's not the biggest deal in the world, but I did want to at least mention that. Overall, the movie was so much better than I expected. Like, I understand why people are praising it. I get it. This is a fun movie. I enjoyed it. I wouldn't say it's a great film by any means, but it is like, it's an I wouldn't even call it a bad movie. It's like an enjoyably, like, fun film to sit through if you're willing to just not worry about it being like something new or anything. So yeah, I liked it. I'm surprised I liked it. That's about it. So yeah. Am I the biggest Marvel movie fan in the world? No. But do I go into them with an open mind? No. Not usually. I go in with with the expectation that it's probably not going to be good, because I've been conditioned now that Marvel movies, they're not hitting like they used to. So I'll be honest, I go in there and I'm not usually expecting it to be good. The same was kind of the case for the new Captain America movie. I didn't have high expectations. I didn't think it looked bad or anything from the trailers, and I like the previous Captain America movies. So I was hoping that it was going to be surprisingly decent, and I thought Red Hulk looked really cool in the trailers. But the reviews came out and people weren't liking it. I was pretty surprised to see how low of a score it has. It's like the third lowest rated Marvel movie ever made or something, or MCU film. It's crazy. So I went into it, and now that I've finished watching it, I can say it's not the third worst Marvel movie ever made, Marvel MCU movie ever made, but it's not very good either. It's better than the worst movies in the MCU, which isn't, a great achievement or anything, but it's not as bad as people are saying. It's just definitely not good. So I went over it really deeply on stream. I'm just going to play that because when I got home from the movie, I just wanted to unwind and rant about it. So I'll just give you that for my review here. Yeah, here, let's just get into it right away. I've got thoughts. I can't contain them. I gotta let them out. We're pouring the toothpaste out of the tube. I didn't have, super high expectations or anything. I thought Red Hulk looked cool. By far, the best part of the movie is Red Hulk. He has maybe 4 minutes of screen time. I'll get in this. I'll give you a spoiler warning when I get to it, but I'm going to talk broadly. I do not think Captain America: Brave New World is as bad as the bottom of the barrel, super slop, revolting, putrid trash like Ant-Man and the Wasp, Eternals, Thor: Love and Thunder, Thor 2. Black Widow. I don't think it's down to that level. But it's also just barely over it. It is a movie that is... It feels like it is basically... I'm trying not to get into spoilers right away, but it is basically just a worse version of Winter Soldier. Everything in the movie is things we have already seen in Marvel, down to the story, just done worse, and with characters that aren't actually superheroes. They're heroes, but they're just people, which is the new Marvel trend, which I get it, and in the film they make a point to talk about it Steve Rogers, he was someone people could believe in, but you're someone people can aspire to, because you're just a man, you don't have a super serum. That's kind of inspiring, okay, but it's really underwhelming when you're telling the same fucking story, but this time without a super soldier. How are the action scenes, though? The action was good. I really like the way the new Captain America fights. I think it's very creative, it's fun, it's versatile. That's solid. I thought they were very solid with that. And having Falcon team up with them, the new Falcon, I think that's solid. They do great there. There's not a lot of them. There's not a ton of action, it's sporadic. Okay, that's fine. But when it's there, it's a nice treat. A story that they have already told bar for bar in the MCU before. We're watching a regurgitated Winter Soldier story, but now everyone's nerfed. And the villain, I think, sucks. The villain is basically... Oh man, I don't want to get into spoilers. Villain's basically I got smart serum, so now I can calculate probability. Except... all of his probability calculations are wrong. And his probability calculations are so trash that he makes... This is kind of a minor spoiler, so... Spoiler warning. One of his calculations was he hurt one of Captain America's friends. He framed him. And he thought by doing so, there was an 89% chance that the new Captain America would give up. And it's brother, what the fuck are you talking about? You're poking the bear. Why would he give up when you just framed his friend? What probability calculations are you running? This whole time, they hype him up as the super smart guy. But he even says, not a single one of his plans really come to fruition, except in loose pieces. But he even says multiple times, you have surprised me. And it's no, why did he surprise you? He tracked your phone because you phone called the bad guy, and then you talked to Captain America on that phone. Obviously he's going to track it. Why is he surprising you? That's a bumbling fool could have known that would be the next course of action. Not super mastermind. The movie is the third lowest rated MCU project on Rotten Tomatoes. The only projects lower are Eternal and Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. I saw that, and that's why I'm saying I don't think it's to that level. I think it is still better than the worst of the bunch, which isn't a compliment. I know that's not high praise, but it's not as bad as people are saying it is. It's just truly feels like a waste of time, and it really, now we're going to get into a little spoiler territory. There's no actual consequences for anything at all. Like like all of it it feels like this was I know it went through 4 reshoots, and it feels like somewhere along the reshoots they forgot what they were even fucking doing. So you just get like a time waster. It's inherently worse because it's come off the back of a bunch of bad ones, so people's frustration is stacking. Yeah, I know, it's kind of like this avalanche effect, so it's like this fucking snowball, where so many of these movies have just been lackluster that this one, I think for a lot of people, is like, okay, I'm fucking done, I get it. But it is not as bad as the worst. It's just not good either. Now I want to get into spoilers. This is fair warning. Fair warning. I'm going to get into some spoilers here, because there's some shit I really want to talk about with the movie. I'll give everyone a moment to acclimate to, latency or whatever. Okay, now we're going into spoilers. I really fucking hate how extraordinarily lackluster it is when you put a superhero formula with people that are just people. So Red Hulk is a super villain that can only be equaled by a superhero, a point they even make. So you can't fight him as a person. You have to resort to basically Naruto talk no jutsu. And I had a feeling this is what was going to happen. You can't fight him. You can barely do anything against him. So in order to beat him, you have to say calm down. That sucks. That is so underwhelming. So Captain America doesn't actually beat anybody except a throwaway side villain. So like the supervillain turns himself in, and that's the last we see of him. He's like, in order for my plan to work, since you've bested me in the other 2 places, kind of, I'm going to turn myself in. And he does. So he's gone. And then Harrison Ford gets real mad and goes Red Hulk. And at that point, I knew it was cooked. You're not fighting him. I thought maybe a weapon that they had or something, like Wakandan technology, because they were like really making a point about that. But no, it boils down to, remember your daughter. I know you want to change. So be the change you claim you want to be. And he goes, oh, and he shrinks back to old man. It's just so underwhelming. Because it's a superhero movie. So you want, like, superhero shit to happen when you have this climactic fight, and you don't get it because it's people. So it just makes it so the only thing you can do is that. Did you like it when Black Widow did it with the Hulk? It was fine back then because you're still surrounded by things that make sense, like, oh, Hulk is going up against all of these other really superpowered people and shit. Like, it makes more sense in that context. And it's not like the climactic final moment. Like, it doesn't all build up to that. Post-credit scene was also a bit goofy. Full disclosure, I didn't stay for the post-credit scene. I just wanted to get out. I was so bored. And that was such a lackluster ending, I was just ready to go. I didn't see the post-credit scene, I don't know. The villain was like, I predict worlds will collide soon. Yeah. I'm not gonna spoil everything about the movie, I know I just talked about the ending. But I'm gonna try not to point out everything about the film, but yeah, that sounds like some fucking cringe for it. Who the fuck goes to a Marvel movie and doesn't stay for the post-credit? That's like 50% of even going to watch it. What is that mentality? What? Half the reason to go see a Marvel movie is for the 5 seconds at the very end where they say, and he will return, or worlds will collide. I can just look it up, man, and get the same effect. Red Hulk all over the marketing, no big fight. We're still in spoiler territory. I'm sure people that were avoiding spoilers are still out of this. No, man, like I said, Red Hulk gets like actually just one sequence. Granted, the sequence is like 8 to 9 minutes, maybe. And it's cool. I think that is the best part of the movie by far, that fight. Until the fight ends. Then it's, wow, does it go out with a whimper. Half of the Red Hulk fight is in the trailer. Not wrong. Legitimately, that guy, he's making a joke, but he's not wrong. Most of the big Red Hulk moments you see in the trailer. Almost the whole fight is there. And there's not any other. I'm somewhat optimistic for Fantastic Four, and I'm somewhat optimistic for Thunderbolts. But, as I predicted on stream a couple days ago, they set up a villain in Thunderbolts that is a villain meant for the best of superheroes, not people, not just guys. You know what I mean? Not just like human beings. So the only way I can see them, and you can clip this and mark this down, I'll be a fucking prophet with this. The only way I see them beating Void/Sentry is the good part of him. Sentry takes over. He's like, guys, I'm holding back Void. I'm opening my weak spot. Do it. And then they'll kill him like that. That's the only way. Because these villains that they're putting in these movies without a superhero to fight them cannot be beaten except, like in this movie, if you ask them to stop. You know what I mean? Or if someone intervenes like that and does like fucking Deus Ex Machina shit. No, done with spoilers. No more spoilers. I won't go much more into spoilers. Again, just not good. Not good. Not nearly as bad as the worst in the bunch, though, of the MCU. If you're going to break the MCU movies into 4 tiers, great, good, mid, trash, this would be in mid. Just above trash. A Marvel crew member came forward and said everyone on the team knew the movie was going to be bad because production was chaotic and a lot of scenes were completely cut. Oh, that's another thing I wanted to mention. I don't know about the crew member thing you're talking about. The movie does feel like there was so much that was chopped out of it that there's a lot of points in there that feels like they forgot the connector. So, man, I already said we're done with spoilers. There's a character death that I'm pretty sure everybody on the entire team, including the actor, forgot happened. And yet, the way it was portrayed felt like it was going to be really important, but in the next scene after the character death, the guy goes and just tells Captain America the vital information anyway. The bad guy does.